Welcome to Normal America Show. Host Rob Noor. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. I am. Elbows, it's your birthday. On election day. Oh my goodness. That's unbelievable. Pretty cool. My birthday is on the 4th of July, baby. Yeah, how about that? Second most important thing born on the 4th of July after our country. Good show tonight lined up for you at 9 o'clock. I'll be debating, I don't know the specific topic. Should we be Christian nationalist? I'll be honest, this isn't a term I particularly like. I don't consider myself a Christian nationalist, so um, I've argued against being Christian nationalist. The person really wanted me to argue this position. So I was like, sure. I'm going to choose to define Christian nationalist as a nation governed by people that are Christian. But I am not going to make any sort of racial claims or any shit like that. I think that our country would be better off understanding that the roots of our country, the founding fathers, were coming from a deist and Christian tradition, and that we need to not be ashamed of Christianity and understanding that we should have laws and ethics in our country that are rooted in a Christian tradition. So that's how I'm going to choose to argue it. And if my opponent wants to say that's not the way that it's conventionally argued, fair enough. We could have that semantic debate. I'm hoping that we could make it more of sort of the foundational principles of should we base our legal system and our morality on secularism or Christianity? So, but we'll see. I'm not gung-ho to take debates like this. This person was very persistent in wanting to get me to debate. I agreed to do a debate in this channel before I knew it was religious debates. I actually thought he was joking when he was like, oh, pick a religious topic, because he knew I don't do those. And then when I found out he was serious, I was like, I'm probably not the right person for your channel. And he was like, come on, we'll find something religious and political. And I'm like, I don't know. So anyways, I'll be relying on my guile and, oh, you were also born in 1984 on Independence Day. What time of day? I don't know what time of day I was born. I think I'll ask my mother, but I think it was if she went in on July 3rd. And so I think I was born in the AM on July 4th, like 2 or 3 AM if I remember. But I couldn't tell you definitely. I'll have to ask my mother that. I talked to her yesterday. So anyways, that'll be it. I'm debating someone named Godless Engineer. My assumption is they're not too keen on Christianity with a name like that. But hopefully it's a respectful debate. And, it's two types of debate that I'm not really doing much, which are philosophical debates in general and Christian debates specifically. So I'm at a loss when it comes to being able to quote chapter and verse of the Bible, etc. He co-hosts the Atheist Experience from time to time. Well, fair enough. Hopefully it's a respectful debate. And like I said, if I get my ass kicked, so be it. That's not the worst of it. Right? What better way to learn than debate someone who's competent? But I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a fun debate. And, I'm putting myself out there in a way that normally I don't. And, I'm kind of interested in that. I just hope that I don't blaspheme in any sense, and any Christian, regardless of your denomination, is disappointed. That is not my intent. My intent's not to speak for anyone's religion, as that I'm in effect non-denominational. I've started to attend a Catholic church, but I couldn't tell you the nuances of Catholicism versus Protestantism, etc. I plan on keeping it simple. The key is, here's something you learn as a good debater. Find an area of disagreement that's important and truthful that you know about. Abortion. That's something I know about. I think the murder of billions of babies is a pretty big deal. That's what I think. So, Anywho, that's for tonight's show. For today's show, we got a good one. First off, most importantly, my goodness, what are you doing listening to me? Go vote. Go vote right now if you haven't. Like right now. Put me on your phone, drive to your polling station and vote. I don't care as long as you're in the United States and you're legally able to vote. Please go vote. Please. It is important. I know that it's an off year. I know that you might be in a state that you're like, I don't think it'll really matter. It does matter. It absolutely matters. In Pennsylvania, we have 3 judges that are up for retention. It's possibly the most important vote right now in the country. If the retention wins, the yes on the 3 judges, should you vote? I wouldn't recommend voting illegally. Should the retention uphold, that means that until 2035, these 3 judges will be retained, which ensures at least 10 more years of a Democrat-dominated Supreme Court in Pennsylvania, in the state of Pennsylvania. So vote against that. Even if you're a Democrat, you should vote against that. Why would you want these people, let them win an election again? This is different than the Supreme Court where you don't get a vote. So please, please, please consider going out and voting. I think that you should reject Democrats all across the country in lieu of, in particular, the assassination of Charlie Kirk. It'll be interesting to see some of these elections, like in Virginia, the attorney general race. It is quite possible that a Democrat that wanted his opponents or Republicans' children to die will be the chief prosecutor in the state of Virginia. It's quite possible. And then we're going to see where we stand as a country. It is possible that a man with legitimate National Socialist tattoos running as a Democrat will win the primary, despite the fact that that party has claimed that things as simple as the OK sign is a symbol of that. That Elon Musk just waving to people was a symbol of that, and one of them canceled. So please, please, good, Michael, good. You're voting not to retain. We'll go through it again. It's too late to mail in a vote. Most states, the vote has to be in by election day. So if you have a mail-in ballot, take it to your polling place in person. If you put it in the mail now, it probably won't count. At least that's the way it works in my state of Pennsylvania. So, good question, but yes, if you got a mail-in ballot, don't put it in the mail today. Fill it out, take it to your polling place, hand it in person. I live in New York State and I don't give an F. None of this shit ever gets changed when you have the kind of culture we have here. Yes, but this is a small thing you could do to take a little bit out of your life that actually could have at least minimal effects that go to helping change culture and politics. If you're unwilling even to do this, the minimum, then don't complain. Nothing ever changes. You wouldn't even do the minimum on a hope that it could change. I'm also pessimistic that many of these political things will change. In fact, I said on my key issue of corruption, Trump coming into office had maybe a 5% chance of any meaningful, long-lasting reduction in corruption in our institutions. And yet I busted my ass trying to get him elected. Not just on stream, but going to Republican events, fundraisers. And that's despite the fact I'm still pessimistic that that will make a realistic change. So go do the minimum, go vote, and then listen. If nothing changes, say, yeah, that's what I thought. But at least no one could accuse you of being totally uninterested in not changing. Of course, there are more important things that we could do in our own life. Be a good person. Show that your morality, and if you come from a Christian perspective, but even if not, show that your morality is actually something that is to be desired and model that, and that will help change culture In many ways, more important ways than voting. But voting is something small you could do that has a chance. That's right. Any little incremental shift to the right helps. Yeah. Re-examination show says Illinois was very close for Trump in 2024 to make Dems nervous. At least by Illinois Dem staters, that's not nothing. Yeah, I don't think there'll be Trump 2028. Do I think Bannon's bluffing? No, I think a lot of it's trolling, but I think he thinks that there's a chance. I talked about this on the extravaganza. Like, I think that the way that they would try to go about it is to like basically make Trump Speaker of the House and then run an intentional ticket of we promise to resign so Trump would be president again. I think that's technically legal, even if it's against the spirit of the amendment, the 22nd Amendment. And I suppose if Trump's like massively popular by the end of his term, maybe it's worth doing. But my guess is that it would be a huge disaster. Time to pass the torch. No one can take away from what Trump did. He was probably the biggest underdog in history to win the election in 2016 and probably the greatest comeback story ever to win in 2024. He could do a lot of good in his remaining time, and then he could act almost in a more important role as a cultural and sort of business and media figure behind the scenes and pass the torch off and basically declare his successor. The problem is there's an awful lot of people in the middle that will be disgusted if they legitimately try to do some backhanded way to run Trump in 2028. And so it's not just like he would have to win what we would consider like 51% of the people voting. He'd have to win like 70 to 80% because there's going to be 10 to 15% in the middle that just say, nope, this is fucking ridiculous, won't do it. Yeah, I don't want Trump a third term. I think it's a huge mistake. Thanks, Jack the Guitar God. It is nice knowing I'm not in notice anymore. Thank you, Rockets Red Glare. So, theme of the show today is going to be go vote, go vote, go vote, go vote, go vote. Send me money, send me money, send me money, and go vote, go vote. Speaking of which, Naughty Germ, thank you so much for the $5. Really appreciate it as always, man. For real, thank you so much. BJC, $5 says, you may doubt Virginia will vote red today, but I have hope. You prick. Yeah, I'm pessimistic if I'm honest, but that's all the more reason that I'm encouraging people to go vote. Nothing's over till it's over, but I think we're going to see losses across the board for Republicans. Virginia, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. That's my prediction. But I'm the type of person when I go back to that old Steve Ranella quote. I'm pessimistic with my mind, but optimistic with my feet. In other words, I will continue to act to push forward for good results, even if in my head I'm like, I don't think we're going to win. When my side loses, it motivates me to want to do better and to push harder. If I think my side's going to lose, it motivates me even harder. So that's where I'm at now. Some people, for me, it's like, good. I like being the underdog, so. Call your friends. Make sure they voted. So that's where we're at today. Now, we're trying to get to our goal of $357. We're trying to get a lot of stuff set up for DebateCon here, etc. So I implore you, please, please, please consider sending in some super chats if you have some extra money. Also, check out yesterday's show, the first Law and Order, with me and my friend Ryan Mullally. I thought it was a good show. That show will get better. It'll be every other Monday. 2 stories to cover today that I wanted to talk about before we get to the calls. The first is Tommy Robinson. Tommy, in his trial today, was found not guilty, and the judge excoriated the police. Now, basically what happened was he was on charge under a terrorism act in the UK, because he was outside at a rally and police detained him and wanted to see his phone, his records, and he refused to hand them over, which is why he was targeted. And the judge basically absolutely excoriated the police, saying that Tommy was specifically targeted for his political beliefs. Now, the question becomes, what happens to those police officers that did that? Here's Tommy outside right after the not guilty verdict.
What has been the outcome?
What has been the outcome? The outcome has been found that the police discriminated against me based on my belief and my political beliefs. Now, my grievance now, well, not my grievance. First of all, thank you, Elon Musk. Thank you, Elon Musk, because if it wasn't for Elon Musk, why is it took an American businessman to fight for our justice here and our fight against terrorism charges for journalists? Now, over there, in a minute, it's going to come the journalists, the mainstream media. Go back now. If you want to see if you can trust the media, go back now and read what they said about this trial. When I was on trial, read what they said. Read the headlines, read the news that they give out, and then read the judge's judgment. Right? Because all those journalists sat on that trial, they knew the police acted unlawfully, they knew they acted illegally, they admitted it in court, and none of the journalists told you that. None of them. They were hoping they had another bench judge that would rule against me, and then you, the public, would know nothing. That judge's verdict is a slam down against the police. An absolute, read what he says, yeah? Read what he says, read about their evidence. It was corrupt, it was unlawful. For me, I'm frustrated still. I should be happy. I'm not happy because I shouldn't be put through this time and time again. I walked out of this court last year at a cost of £53,000 with a not guilty. I've just walked out again. This is nearly £100,000 been spent on this case. What for?
The process is the punishment. That's what's going on. Again, the legal system in the UK is more interested in going after people blowing the whistle and complaining about grooming gangs and knife murder than the actual grooming gangs and knife murderers. And so Tommy will continue to be targeted over and over and over ad nauseum. Here's another person that's talking about this verdict.
You know, I'm not sure everyone understands the seismic impact that the judge's not guilty verdict in the Tommy Robinson Terrorism Act case will have on future political persecution cases against Tommy Robinson. You know, Tommy's been telling us for years that every case against him is a witch hunt and that he's been targeted because of his political views. And for the first time ever, a sitting magistrate, Sam Guzzi, has agreed with him, saying, I cannot put out of my mind that it was actually what you stood for and your political beliefs that acted as the principal reason for this stop. So if you've been following Tommy Robinson, you know that he has another court case coming up next year for a harassment charge because two journalists that photographed Tommy and his family on vacation a year ago filed those charges against him when he returned the favor and photographed them. Only they weren't charged, he was. So going forward in this case and any other politically motivated case against Tommy Robinson, his attorneys will be able to argue that political motivation in any other courtroom because they can now point to this case and say, see here, Judge, we know that this prosecutor and these mainstream journalists are out to get Tommy Robinson based on his political views because another judge in this previous case has already found it to be true. So kudos to this Judge Sam Guzzi for making the right decision in this case. You know, I had my doubts about him at first, but in the end, I did predict this would be the outcome. So congratulations to my friend Tommy Robinson.
And the next trial that's coming up is absurd. Again, imagine a celebrity getting annoyed that the paparazzi's photographing them and their family at dinner. And so they start taking pictures and the paparazzi's like, well, you can't do that. We're anonymous people. You can't take pictures of us. He'll be on trial for that. He's facing 10 years in prison for his next trial. Who is Tommy Robinson? Wow. Really? Tommy Robinson is, I think he wouldn't mind me using this term, a bloke from the UK who for more than a decade before it was popular, before anyone knew about it, was calling out these Muslim grooming gangs in the United Kingdom. And he's been harassed, attacked by Muslim gangs, by the police for 15 years, if not more. And he continues to be attacked over and over and over again. In and out of jail, for trying to expose these grooming gangs. So, kudos to Tommy, but the battle's nowhere near over. He'll be facing legal troubles again. The elections. Election day shenanigans, some legal, some illegal. Here's one that appears legal. Here's a ballot in New York. A New York City ballot. First person listed, Mamdani. Second person listed, Sliwa. Third person listed, Estrada. Fourth person listed, Mamdani. Fifth person listed, Sliwa. Sixth person listed, Eric Adams, who had dropped out. Seventh person listed, Jim Walden. Eighth person listed, Cuomo, who is the chief, the second most likely person to win. Now, yes, legally, this seems to be on the up and up. Mamdani was the nominee for two parties, the Democrat Party and the Working Families Party. This is how absurd ballots are in New York. Eric Adams, allegedly, I'm reading, did not meet the deadline for withdrawal, so his name's still on the ballot. This will take votes away from Cuomo. Just to give you an idea. Now, I don't know. I suppose if one candidate wanted to get the nomination from the Republican Party, the Conservative Party, the Working Families Party, the Protect America Party, I suppose it could be one Democrat candidate and then 6 slots of the Republican. It seems like a joke why you would do this, have candidates listed more than once, but I don't care that it's Sliwa. What do I care? He did train the big boss man, though. I saw that. That's just one little one. In-person voting favors Republicans heavily all across the country. So states like Pennsylvania, New Jersey, that are very important elections today, usually what happens is the mail-in voting, surprise, surprise, goes Democrat substantially. And then the question is, in-person voting day, is there enough Republican turnout to outweigh it? Here's New Jersey.
Governor Mark Meredith is live in Montclair with the latest for us. Mark.
Ainsley, Brian, and Lawrence, good morning once again, friends. Some brand new information coming into our newsroom that we've learned that these threats were communicated electronically via email to at least 7 different counties across the Garden State. These threats certainly being taken seriously, and out of abundance of caution, some of the polling places were temporarily either closed or suspended as they moved voters to different locations. And then as they were doing those searches, then either able to reopen some of the facilities. We got a statement from the Attorney General of New Jersey. I want to put it up on the screen for you. It says, law enforcement officers have responded at each affected polling place. Some of these polling locations have already reopened to the public. The polls in New Jersey opened at 6 a.m. sharp. We have not seen any added security in the last.
All right, so kudos to them for getting them reopened quickly. But the problem still remains. Anybody that might be fearful now to go out is going to drive down the vote on election day, which will hurt Republicans. Now, this doesn't mean that it's not a right-winger that did this. It would just be absurd. It's stupid. Evidence would suggest the group that benefits would be Democrats, but I'm not here to tell you that a Democrat did that. It's just, wow, this is bad for Republicans. Mamdani, what do you have to say about it?
Incredibly concerning. And I think that it is an illustration of the attacks we're seeing on our democracy. Sometimes they're blatant and explicit in the manner of these bomb threats. And we have to understand this as part of the general approach the Trump administration has taken to trying to intimidate voters with baseless allegations of voter fraud as a means of trying to repress the voice of Americans across this country.
I don't know if he's going to.
You see, it's Trump's fault. Trump. Yes, the bomb threats are just like Trump and his policies. There you have it. Are you surprised? How many people blamed Trump when Charlie Kirk was shot? How many people blamed Trump for his own failed assassination attempts that occurred against him? Even when we have violence specifically targeted against Republicans, the Democrats' message is that's Republican violence. Now that's just in Jersey. How about my state of Pennsylvania? Right near me, one of the districts near me. Scott Pressler, machines are down in Slippery Rock Borough, the town where Republican Mayor J.D. Longo is running for re-election. So Slippery Rock. Independent voters were not included in the poll books in Chester County. And so now if you're not registered as a Republican or a Democrat in Chester County in Pennsylvania, you can't vote. You have to get a provisional ballot. I just voted in Pennsylvania and the polling station was in chaos. Someone in the voter services purged all the independences from the voter rolls. Everyone was needing to do a provisional ballot and they only had one station for it. So the line was really backed up. What a weird happenstance that these issues occur on election day when Republicans are overwhelmingly benefited. Oh, sorry, we took a bunch of people off their voting paroles. Oh, well, anyways, fell out a provisional ballot. You remember when this happened in Arizona, when the machines went down, and they were like, don't worry, leave your, I have a video of this somewhere. I don't know if it's a short or a video. But it's a joke. Scott Pressler has example after example today. Reports that voters are leaving polling locations in Lakewood, Pennsylvania, because they didn't have enough ballots. All right, I have to go to the restroom, so I'll be right back. What do you want me to leave you with? First person song, something like that? How about an oldie but a goodie? Be right back.
Transition, so get out your wallet and quit your bitching.
Hi, sorry.
dollars he needs.
What a good, what a professional host. Listen, sometimes nature calls. Apologies for that. So, anyways, that's the stories. We will read the super chats here real quick, trying to get to our goal of $357. Of course, we could take any call on any subject you want. I'm afraid I'm starting to get ill. So I don't know if you can tell, I've had what seems to be a cold. I've been coughing and I've been congested, and now I'm having stomach issues. So, but I guess get it out of the way before Nashville. So, it happens. I always get sick around this time of year. So, so there's the link. I wanted to find a video real quick that I did. Read super chats and then bring on callers. So let me pin that. Let me see if I can find this video. Now this would have been around. Guessing it was a short. No. No, it had to be a video. Do you remember it was like Arizona? Was it 2024 election? Right, where this happened? Had to be 2022. Yeah, it had to be 2022. Well, I won't be able to find the video. Yeah, it's not that long ago. I'm looking real quick here. We'll see if I can find this. Here we are. I did find it. I dressed up for this one. This is robnoerr, the municipal elections administrator in Arizona. You ready? What a looker.
Hi, everyone. Director here from Maricopa County. Thanks so much that you could all join us. We have a problem today. I just wanted to let everyone know, all of you waiting in line. Despite the fact, as we know, we have the most secure elections ever, we have a problem. The machines that are taking the ballots in stopped working. It's not really working. So we have what's called incinerator 3. I'm sorry, I mean box 3. And what we're going to ask is for all of you that are Republicans, please go ahead and put your ballot in box 3. Put it in box 3 there. And we assure you that sometime later today, when no one's around, we'll get to counting them. What's that? Oh, you're a Democrat? No, go ahead. You could use the machine over there. Go ahead and use the machine. But you Republicans, please, box 3 there. Box 3 is where we go. Now, listen, I know it sounds confusing, but we know these are the most secure elections ever. We just want to let you know there are people here from Biden's DOJ, so they're going to make sure everything runs smooth. Oh, no. They're just here to make sure that you don't question that this is the most secure election ever. So, yeah, we'll know the outcome of this election whenever there is enough ballots that mean that the Democrats win. So that could take a day, a couple months. Whenever that is, we'll know. But please, Republicans, put it in box 3. Put it, what's that? Never mind. I'm hearing Fox News calls the election for Democrats anyway. So thank you all for coming. Most secure election ever. Thanks.
Hey, and we're back, baby. We're back. We're back, baby. Remember that in Arizona 2022? Oh, the machines are down in Maricopa. But if you put them in box 3 there, we'll get to counting them eventually. Remember? What a load of shit. It's always the same old story, isn't it? Now we have all these problems election day again. All the data suggests that mail-in votings, even if you take corruption out of it, are less secure and more prone to error than in-person voting. So Republicans rightfully want to reject that. But by calling out how bad it is, and by the way, it's also open to if you had a nefarious postman, etc., that they could quite literally throw your ballot away and you'd have no way of knowing. But then there's always all these problems on election day. Bomb threats, rolls being removed, machines not working, not enough paper with the ballots printed, on and on and on we go. All right. Your job is the audience. Get those super chats in. My job as the host. Take good calls. The callers, your job, please, please, please. Fall in line with TOS. No racial slurs, no homophobic slurs, etc. Right now we have 4 callers on the line, so we'll get to spend a decent amount of time with you. You can talk about any topic you want, whether it be voting, Tommy Robinson, or any other topic, as long as it falls within terms of service. I'll read these super chats briefly, and then we're getting to our first call, who is Miggy today. AJC, $20 says, the debate Andrew had last night taught me to prevent from being broke, I should just not have money. Makes total sense. Yeah, not a good performance. And then, you know, in addition to the guy just being rude and filibustering the whole time, the fact that he then ends the debate by insulting Andrew's wife is just ridiculous. Just cowardly bullshit behavior is what it is. But the gentleman was very low tier, and his arguments were very nonsensical. I could argue from his position 5 times better than he did. Pretty much any red pill person I know that's against the institution of marriage could have put up a better fight than he did. He was just all over the place, condescending, and a very bad performance. So I'm sure his audience thinks he did great, though. And yeah, you did have such hits as marriage is the #1 cause for divorce. Okay. Geoverse, thanks for the 5 gifted memberships, man. I appreciate it. And becoming a member yourself. Knack Talk, $5 says, I'm back. Hope you're doing great, Rob. For the Griff, thank you. And then gifts 5 memberships. Always appreciated, man. All right, Miggy, you're up first, man. How you doing?
Pretty good so far. Honestly, I was watching the Sitch and Adams show yesterday. It took me a while to get through the whole damn thing. It was about the whole Chuck Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes thing. I don't know. It seems like they really just don't understand or missing some points of why Nick Fuentes is becoming more and more popular in mainstream. And, you know, I don't think he's never going to be mainstream. Like, well, it's probably because the mainstream establishment has failed. Like the centrist, like the Sitch and Adam, the more establishment right wing and establishment left wing has pretty much failed the public. They have failed us for the past, almost nearly a century. Hollowed out manufacturing, shrinking the middle class, just open borders policies, flooding everybody in, the constant foreign intervention, and then the whole defending of Israel, and like the whole pro-Israel crowd is so bad, trying to defend themselves. It just makes it so laughably comedic at this point. You see people like Mark Levin or Randy Fine or Ben Shapiro. They're just so bad at what they're doing. Like, it just makes the arguments for like the Nick Fuentes and the Hassan Piker crowd even much stronger than it should have been.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that the problem is when a system fails, people are going to reach for things that are outside that system, and Nick's part of that that's outside the system. You're right, Hassan would be someone on the left. I think Nick's much better than Hassan. I think Nick's much more intelligent. I think Nick's more charismatic, but whatever. The same idea applies. You're correct to point out that when you have these establishments, institutions fail, people are going to go elsewhere. Now, some of the places they go elsewhere are going to be very good. Like, I think going elsewhere, for example, the murder of Charlie Kirk, I think that turned a lot of people to God. That's good. That's something that a lot of people hadn't been doing in the mainstream, right? Or at least they'd been doing very laxed. So that's a good way to turn. I think there's a lot of good people that are outside the mainstream that people are looking to for answers when it comes to specific punditry or voices that are speaking up. I like Andrew Wilson in The Crucible. I like people like Mike Benz. I like people like Tucker Carlson. But there's going to be bad that comes with that good, or there's going to be people that take it too far. This is true in anything. If you tell people repeatedly you can't say a certain word, righteously, people are going to be like, I think that's bullshit and I should be allowed to say that word. But some people that are terrible will say, great, I get to use that word. And all of a sudden they'll be using it in front of children and, and a bunch of stuff that we wouldn't want. But you still say, I understand why people are reaching outside the normal. When I ran for Congress in 2019, it's something that the big talking point back then for the Republicans was AOC. AOC so dumb. And look at all these young people that are voting for her. They're so stupid, they're worthless. And I was like, no, that's the wrong take. The correct take is the people are desperate, that the establishment systems aren't working for them. And so they're going in desperate ways. Some of those outside the establishment voices are good. Some of them are bad. I don't like AOC, but I understand why people are rolling the dice. It's the same with Mamdani. I get it. I think he's terrible, but I understand it, right? It's like, well, we feel that the establishment parties have failed us. So on your point real quick, I'll show something. Nick Fuentes, right? Largely what's happening here is, it is true that there's been a lot of influence, whether rightfully or wrongfully, from Jewish groups, whether it be AIPAC or more specifically groups like the ADL. Now, I know a lot of practicing Jewish people despise the ADL, and that's fine. But you have to understand, they've been running around screaming organizations are anti-Semitic forever. Everyone's anti-Semitic. Turning Point USA is anti-Semitic. Charlie Kirk's anti-Semitic. Trump's anti-Semitic, and on and on and on and on. And so there's going to be a pushback eventually of people like, no. And that pushback is going to go too far in many instances. But then when you see things like this is our former vice president, Mike Pence. He says, quote, there is no room in the conservative movement for, quote, opposing American support for Israel. And there's absolutely no room for the conservative movement of anti-Semitism. So when they're like, oh, you see the conflation that's happening? It's not just like, well, we think it could go too far, like that caller that called into my show the other day, which takes it too far. Have any percentage of blood in you that's Jewish, you're out of the country. Even if you're a practicing Orthodox Christian, you're out because of your ethnicity. That's clearly insane and too far. But then the other side that's like, you can't even say that we shouldn't send money to Israel. That's the same. That's the same as that person that called in. That's why there are so many people that are like, wait a minute. And when you tell people that, when you keep saying any slight disagreement with us, there's no movement whatsoever. You can't disagree with anything the Israeli government does. What do you expect the logical extrapolation of that's going to be? It's going to be that people turn away from it and they're going to go too far. And that also means that then those very people that are telling you that, like Mike Pence or Mark Levin, will point to the people that go too far and say, see, this is because some people didn't want to send money to Israel. This is proof we must send money to Israel.
Yeah, and honestly, I even saw actual justice warrior Sean Fitzgerald. He's been with support of Israel, but he's warned Israel since October 7th that this was going to happen, because this is they call it an unconventional warfare. Huh? The more asymmetric that they're losing. They're completely losing this, and they have no idea how to deal with it. And of course, their choice of doing so is by doubling down or tripling down in more insane policies, like the same talking points, like with Mike Pence, you just saw with Mike Pence or Mike Levin. That's going to just keep pushing people away more and more. I mean, the thing is, the establishmentarian on the right and left have completely dropped the ball. Even the centrists and libertarians have also dropped the ball on this plenty of times as well. And now they're literally asking themselves, looking dumbfounded, like, how is this happening? How in the world is Mamdani winning on the left? And how in the world is Trump still winning on the right? And there's going to be more of that type of influence on the right that's taking over How is that happening? It's because you guys failed. You all failed you failed the American people. You failed to address reforms. You never even put reforms on the table. Even you try to put reforms on the table, you have completely dropped the ball on that, like with the Obamacare thing, dropped the ball. Not even like even though repeal and reform Obamacare, that was a drop the ball moment too. Like how many times that the establishment is going to keep dropping the ball till they understand? Like, they just don't, because they're so out of touch. They're so badly out of touch with society. They're now like the socialist Islamists. It's becoming more. It's pretty much inevitable for the Democratic Party. That's not going away. And whether you think they can try to push it back, that's not going away. The same thing with the Christian nationalists or like the MAGA movement on the right. That's not going away either. That's inevitable. But and Sitch and Adam needs to understand that no matter like at this point, the centrist type policies that they try to push has failed to reform the systems, and whatever the proposals they have, it just doesn't fucking work because they don't know how to execute that stuff. It's just they just fail. Like now, like either you get a socialist or a Christian nationalist. Like that's probably what's going to end up happening down the line. And that's pretty much going to be options, because the centrist option has failed, the libertarian option has failed, the establishment options has failed. Like all that stuff has failed.
Well, the problem with centrism is, right, the true most of the centrists don't call out, right, the actual abuses and the negative things that are occurring under the system. They just want to say, well, both extremes are wrong. And that's true. Both sides could have extremes that go too far. But when
That's
you are
true.
centrist for the sake of it, right? It's like, well, what is getting done? And they'll say, well, there are no centrists. We haven't tried the centrist option. But like Sitch specifically, when you talk about the absolute abuses that occurred with lawfare under Trump and stuff, it's just write it off, write it off, write it off, and nothing will change then. Nothing's going to change. Right? In a world where there is no corruption, where Republicans are really trying to do what their campaign promises are, and Democrats are trying to do the same, and both love the country, and they're really pushing for that, and we have some sort of unity, centrism can make sense. I personally am somewhat of a centrist in that I'm not the complete extreme on the right, and, so that puts me in somewhat of a center, even though I'm far more right wing than I am centrist or left wing. But it's all a sliding scale. The problem is when the system itself is broken, right? And being a centrist means no, we have to embrace the system. People are going to reject it. And so that's what's happening. Both extremes feed the other side. I get that. The problem is that almost every institution in this country hasn't been centrist. They've been at least paying lip service to the causes of the left, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, for example, Hollywood, any right wingers there? Hardly
Nope.
any. How about the mainstream media? Nope. The tech companies are starting to swing back, but for years, nope. How about mainstream media? Hardly any, at least in the ones that we consider to be centrist, right? Sure, Fox News, right wing, Breitbart, right wing, MSNBC, left, New York Times, Washington Post, ABC, CBS, NBC, left, 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 left. Right?
The whole
And
Jeff
so,
Bezos empire is pretty much all left wing and
Right.
extremely toxic as hell.
yes, that's the issue, right? And the centrists that's refused to acknowledge that or been ineffectual in doing anything about it, the only way to fight back on it is to be right wing and push back and say, no, we're not going to do that. To be centrist and go, let's just keep the status quo running. It's nonsensical. So I don't know. I've had my disputes with them, but yeah, I mean, now I do understand, right, from the perspective of either the right or the left, but we'll focus particularly on the right. If you're like, okay, we don't like the establishment, we're building a coalition of people outside the establishment. If voices start to gain prominence in that coalition that are unpalatable to the vast majority of the country, which will turn people away from this right-wing coalition, then you're fucking up. And so the concern is, okay, if Nick Fuentes becomes this big voice and he's working with Tucker Carlson, who's this big voice, and they all of a sudden become a big part of what the right-wing MAGA project is, well then, a bunch of people that you need to vote for right-wing MAGA people are going to say, no thanks, dog. I'm going to go the other side. I don't like Nick Fuentes. I don't like the Grippers. I don't like what they stand for. Or, that girl that called in, I don't like genetically testing every single person that if they have any percentage of blood that's not of European ancestry, they get kicked out of the country. I'm not for that. I guess I'll go for the fucking lunatics on the left. because that seems to be better than literally kicking out people out of the country because of your racial hatred of them.
Yeah, it's
And
more
so
like a pick
that's
a poison kind of thing.
right.
And that's pretty much going to be left with that option. And again, my problem with Sitch and Adam and like the centrists and even the libertarians, like they're not seeing that. They're so beyond out of touch that they're like I guess they're living in a state of denial. And you can argue, yes, the far left and the far right is absolutely insane for a lot of the shit that they believe in. But if they don't address this now, we're never going to have a moment where we're going to have a centrist type, any kind of, you know, shaking hands with each other like we had before, and that's going to be a big problem down the future. I see this happening. I mean, we see this
And
happening in the right.
and
We see this-
listen, you could blame Trump too. Right? You're right to be like, look, Republicans ran for years on repeal and replace Obamacare, then they failed, right? But the same could be said of Trump. Trump made a bunch of promises. I can't play the video on YouTube, but Sam Hyde, right after Charlie Kirk, he puts one of the most powerful videos out there, where he's saying, "This is you," and he shows Charlie Kirk, and he says, "This is your wife, your sister, your girlfriend," and he shows Irina, right? And he's like, "This is what they want to do with you." And he's basically like, look, Trump, you have 2 weeks. You have 2 weeks to respond to this, or else all bets are off. Well, 2 weeks came and went. What did the Trump administration do? And
Not
that's
much
the
at
problem.
all.
When you look and it's like, look, their failures are leading people to say, okay, well then, we have to go more extreme. This is why you hear people like Jesse Kelly say all the time, if Trump's ineffectual, you're going to get Franco. If Trump was the maniac that they say, like, maybe things would be changing, but he's not. He's not this evil demon. And I don't want the evil demon. Don't get me wrong. I don't. I'd much rather that it gets sorted out here with Trump, the majority of it. And then we could have someone like Ron DeSantis, JD Vance, etc., come along and say, look, until this corruption's rooted out, we're going to continue to root it out. We're going to enforce the laws, etc., etc. But it's time to get back to sensible governance, small government, right? Localized, more local governments making decision, but the federal government doing their job, Congress doing their job. Instead of it's so pathetic. This country is a fucking joke. Our Congress is a joke. What do? They can't even pass budgets ever. It's always a last minute emergency. And if you want something simple like, hey, there's a bunch of potholes in the fucking roads. Can we get something done about that? Sure.
No, it gets
here's
filibustered.
a 1,300-page bill that funds billions of dollars to a bunch of bullshit that you don't care about. But hey, if you want those fucking potholes fixed, you got to vote for this. And if you don't vote for it, well, then apparently you didn't give a fuck about the potholes, right? You didn't give a fuck at all.
You get the omnibus bill that requires 51 votes, or you have to have single issue vote bills where it gets filibustered all the time. You can't win.
So
At the end of the day, it just feels like people just can't win. I think that's what like that type of crowd needs to understand. Like, we're not winning. If people feel like they can't win, they can't get ahead, they can't have a break. It's constantly just boom, 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 like something happening, just popping, hitting in our face every time. And then like the Sitch and Adam, the Rand Paul, like that type of the centrists, the establishment, even the libertarians, they just living in denial, say that, oh, you'll be fine, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. Like, no, we're not fine. We're not okay. We're literally dealing with so much crap that's happening, and we have foreign adversaries who basically capitalizing off of this too. Like, we are basically fighting on multiple fronts, and like the people that's supposed to that we voted into that's supposed to help protect us from this crap ain't doing it. They're just sitting on their ass doing nothing. And the Trump, fucking up with that. And like, here I thought like maybe Charlie Kirk would be like the unifying force for the right, but now the right is more divided than ever than has ever been before. Like, everybody's at each other's throats, especially after the whole Nick Fuentes Tucker Carlson interview. It's like everybody's loud, like getting at each other's throats at this point. You got the establishment conservative going at the other conservatives or other coalitions. Like, this is the problem. We have all these coalitions and now at odds with each other, and I don't know what it's going to lead to. I'm just hoping today we get this, we get some of these elections wins today.
Yeah, I'm pessimistic, but we'll see. But hey, Mickey, thanks so much. Did you vote?
I'm not in those states. I'm
Well,
in
you should.
Nebraska.
Well, vote anyways.
Yeah,
Right? You should
I
go
will
out and
vote for
vote.
the local elections. Oh, I did left the link because I guess something happened in Harvard at the Harvard Medical School. So I left the link back down from Agenda TV saying I guess some suspects were arrested for an explosion at the medical school.
Okay. Yeah. Does that have to do with voting?
Well, I'm just, it's just one of those other crazy
No, I mean,
acts of
it's
violence.
just oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't heard. I briefly heard about this yesterday, but I didn't know if that was somehow connected to the elections or anything, if that's what they're saying. But
It could be just one of those random events that's like another act of violence or so.
So, all right, man. Well, hey, we always appreciate it, Miggy. Thank you so much for the call, man.
No problem.
All right, we'll see you. All right. Super chats real quick. Remember to get your super chats in. Bandit 848 $2 says, Rob just voted. Why are Dems the first on the ballot? Well, it depends on your state. It's up to each state to decide how they decide to put people in what order on the ballot. Some states just do it by alphabetical order of the people that are running. So, for example, if the Republicans' last name is Abrams and the Democrats' last name's Buchanan, then the Republican would be first for that specific race. Other states do it, I think they do it by like who won the previous election or which party has the highest registered voters, but it's different in each state. I think some states might just do it randomly. I don't know. But yeah, that's the answer. BJC $5 says, waking up's the number one cause of falling asleep. Smart. Jordan $5 says, shout out to my fellow Virginians. We'll be having a watch party tonight with some Virginia Republican chairman. Embrace Christian nationalism. Yeah, I'll be doing that debate from 9 to 11. I wish I was just covering the election stuff, but it is what it is. It fell when it did, so. How long, Nate? $10 says, checking in from northern Minnesota, heading down to Dallas again. Get to wake up in sunny Texas for my birthday on Thursday. Well, happy birthday. Thanks so much as always, man. And then our friend, potentially criminal Sean, $2 says, suffer, commies. Yeah, they're going to get a win today in New York. Those damn commies. So, all right, next up, we got our good friend, Reexamination Show. How you doing today, my friend?
Rob, I'm so excited to be here. So I'm really excited about your debate tonight because I think I can really narrow the scope of your opponent's attack. So I have my own position about Christian nationalism that's a little more nuanced. Jake Rattlesnake made a video including me, and I'm planning on responding to that too. So I won't focus on that. So in the Bible, what usually atheists do is they'll say, well, look at the Old Testament and the stoning and the this and the that, right? So there's 3 laws in the Bible. There is ceremonial, which has to do with types and shadows, meaning just external practices that God gave them that point to Christ. They're just physical representations of spiritual realities, like things that are based on purity, like not eating pork. Well, that was rescinded in Acts chapter 10. So that was just an illustration. And even Jesus says, if you look it up, it's not what goes in your mouth that pollutes but what comes out of your mouth that corrupts you. So the things that God gave in the Bible in the Old Testament were things that are sensory to people who had less of the Holy Spirit. They were, we had more of the Holy Spirit in the New Testament starting in Acts chapter 2, and the standard was raised as Christ came. If you read the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, you've heard this, but I say to you this. You've heard don't commit adultery, but I say to you, if you look at a woman in your heart, commit adultery in your heart if you lust against her. So if you look in the New Testament, the standard is actually higher, but it doesn't come in a civil law sort of way. If they want to say that, oh, well, there's no difference, these are the ceremonial law and the moral law, which is the 10 Commandments, and the other laws, they're all the same. Why did God prescribe them? You can challenge them and say, well, why didn't God prescribe the civil laws to all the nations in the world? Why only to Israel? That's kind of odd that would be on par with the moral law, but he wouldn't impose that on the entire world or tell Israel to conquer the entire world if it was supposed to be that way and only that way going forward. So he has nowhere to go from there. In fact, there's a debate between Joel McDermott, who is a Reconstructionist who believes Old Testament is binding, and a guy named J.D. Hall. And it's going to be very useful for sorting that stuff out. So that'll help narrow the debate down to the New Testament only. And then once he gets there, the New Testament principles pretty much stand on their own, I think, in any rational mind sense because most atheists are limited to the Western culture, which is shaped by the Bible, shaped by the New Testament. They're not going to stray too far from that. And I think there's a lot of pragmatic playroom in terms of how you issue those and how you sort them out. And I think there is a lot of situational ethics to that to play with because, and essentially, the New Testament doesn't give a model, but the principles from the Old Testament and the New Testament can be drawn from to apply pragmatically. And before I stop talking and let you respond, one example would be like Numbers 35, where it talks about the cities of refuge. If you were somebody who was chopping wood in the forest and your axe head flew off and killed somebody, that's manslaughter. But if a family member of the killed man suspected you of being a murderer, he could chase you down and kill you. Now, there were 6 cities of refuge in the Old Testament. If the manslayer got to within those 6 cities, he could be safe, and then the Avenger of Blood couldn't kill him. If he left before his trial, then you could kill him still. Now, I think that that's an example of pragmatic consideration, because if you have a radically barbaric people like they did back in that time, and you tell them, well, the standard is actually all the way up here, most of the backlash, they're not, so barbaric people's not ready to do anything but incremental steps. Same thing with divorce and remarriage and Deuteronomy 24. Like Jesus, I have a whole video about that, but Jesus doesn't allow divorce. That's a whole other topic. But Moses did for a pragmatic reason, for hardness of heart. And anyway, so that's just a few things. Let me know if you have any questions about narrowing the scope of attack for atheists.
Well, so I think that my approach to this is going to be, I'm not trying to take a specific denominational view when I say Christian. So, for example, if like Catholics, for example, would say, you know, we have to do annulments, not divorce, or some denominations might say, look, here's our nuanced take on an issue such as homosexuality, whereas other denominations might be more hardline when it comes to the legal ramification, not the moral, right? But the legal ramifications on what a specific Christian sect would say. For example, I think that Protestants might be laxer on abortion, gay marriage than an Orthodox, and Catholics would somewhere be in between, would be my guess. I don't know. And because I don't know, I'm not trying to get into the theology that much. His attack is going to be this. He's going to say, secular nations are happier than religious nations. So therefore, we should not have religion as a guiding principle for our legal system. And he's going to point to the Nordic countries. Now, if he's watching, he's going to hear what some of my attacks are. My suspicion is, without having done research into this, is that the Nordic countries' foundational documents, like their constitutions, etc., and their legal framework probably comes from a tradition similar to English common law, which is basically inspired by Christianity, right? So in other words, there's a system set up with the moral underpinnings of Christianity in the Nordic countries. And what happens is that leads to a homogenous society and a high trust society. And as such, what's happened is they've started to lose the path of identifying as Christians, because it's easier to be Christian and seek religion when your life has more hardship, right? And so and I think this is a mistake outside the scope of a conversation of Christian nationalism, but I think that, would you agree with this? The easier your life is, the more likely it is on average for you to be less religious? Is that something you would agree with?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're fat and happy, I mean, Bible talks about how it's hard for rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven.
Right. And so I think what happened is they have this homogenous society, largely because of their forefathers, which set forth through a tradition of Christianity, their legal framework, their foundational framework. They become very wealthy and successful, right? And so they're like, oh, now we're secular. And we can do this because we have all this welfare state. Well, yeah, if you look why the welfare state works in these Nordic countries, right? It's because so many people are pulling into it and so few are pulling out, right? And so there's this homogenized society. The problem is that's not the United States. So to compare us to the Nordic countries, which, by the way, as they start to do things like open their borders, things are getting worse and worse. Now they have more people pulling out. But the United States, we don't have that. We don't have this homogenous society. We don't have this free and easy society where everyone's sort of putting in as opposed to pulling out. So what brings us together? Well, when you look at the United States, the data is overwhelming. People that identify as Christian are higher on the happiness scale. They're more likely to live longer lives. They're more likely to have children. They're more likely to have better end of life care, et cetera, right? And in fact, the data is very specific. The more of a practicing Christian you are, like the more that you go to church and the more serious you take it, the outcomes tend to be better. Not for everyone, but on average. And even when you look at sort of our foundational framework of what our country is, it seemed to be better and operating better and people more happy, etc. If you take out sort of technological advances, when we understood more of what the founding fathers understood, which was either through a Christian or a deist framework, and understand the deist framework, the moral framework that they were instituting was basically the Ten Commandments. It was the Christian, right? So I think that a return to that's better. Because we can see what I think most Christians would agree on is things like we need to prioritize the family unit. There are certain excesses that we need to start to say shouldn't be as easily accessible as they are, like pornography, like abortion. These things are bad. And so my Christian nationalist framework, I'm not going to say, this means Protestantism. This means Catholicism. Right. This means Lutheranism. I'm going to say by saying, look, we need to understand that a Christian moral framework for our legal system, although people will disagree within that framework, well, what does that specifically mean on this law? By adapting that framework, we will lead to a better legal system and a more moral system that most importantly will drive culture towards Christianity, which is actually more effective than the political system. So when it comes to like the specifics of like, well, the New Testament versus the Old Testament, I totally agree. I think you help me out in that you're right that I need to point like, look, we're not talking about stoning gay people. And there's no sect of Christianity that believes that. Even the most hardcore ban gay marriage people, if you ask them like, should we lock people up for being gay? They're like, no. We just should shame it culturally, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. I do think it's too far to be like, look, we'd lock people up. And I don't think any data suggests that if Christians, 100% overwhelmingly, practicing Christians took over Congress and the presidency, that being homosexual would be made illegal. I don't think that would be the case. It would be maybe gay marriage would be illegal, that we would culturally shame it, but it wouldn't be an illegal practice. So that's his offense is going to be secularism good in countries like the Nordic countries, and Christian nationalism would lead to a bunch of crazy stuff like you could never get divorced. We would execute women that try to get divorced, and adultery would be illegal and gays would be illegal. No, it's not going to be that. It's going to be a gradual shift to a more moral framework, which will then in turn shift culture to say, look, these are the things that you prefer. Because, and the last thing I'll say, and I'll give you a chance to respond, culture is always going to be more important than the legal system, than the laws. You want people to, without the threat of legal enforcement, do the right thing. That's what we want. We want people to adapt sort of a Christian mindset to say, listen, I'm not doing this because I'm afraid that I'll get caught, right? I'm doing it because it's the right thing. That's why I'm doing it, because God says that's what I should do. I don't need the government to tell me like, hey man, you can't steal. I don't steal because God tells me not to steal. That's why I don't do it. Whether or not I get, but from a legal framework, not everyone's going to follow that, and we have to have a legal system. But changing the culture to me is a priori, and I think the best way to change, or in this sense, politically, what we could do is adapt a framework. And again, I know, for those that don't know, you debated Andrew, and that it's just been put up in modern day debate, and the argument you're having, correct me if I'm wrong here, is like the way that many people have used the term Christian nationalism has things like a racial component to it, which you reject. But you wouldn't reject the idea of like, if Christian nationalism means we should prioritize the Christian moral framework in our political system, I think you would agree with that. It's just
absolutely. So that's why I say let's just chuck the nationalism and just call it Christianity. You spread the gospel, you get involved in politics. Part of loving your neighbor is changing the laws to things that are objectively moral, which God defines in the Bible. So if Christian nationalism was just let's elect Christians and have them make moral laws, if that's all it was, that's fine. But I would just call that being a Christian, and I don't need the nationalism. And the second question I guess I would have for you is, on what plane are we arguing? Are you arguing? I know you say you weren't going philosophical, but are you arguing in such a sense that would appeal to atheists on their own plane, or are you trying to call the atheists to a higher standard and say, look, your philosophy has no basis for staying within the realm of rule of law. It's eventually going to fall to cult of personality, because if God is over everybody and God is over government, then that's a fixed point from which people can't move. But if there is no God and there is no fixed point and there's no personal foundation of truth, just a truth is a thing and not a person, then you can just form it postmodernly however you want. If I'm
I think
unclear,
I could
let me
argue,
know.
I think more the latter, but I think I could also argue the former. Now, the truth is, the problem with the former is if you're talking to an atheist or a secular humanist, and you would say, because this is something that I like to do in a lot of my debates, or especially if you're advocating for a political change. So if you go back and you see my videos on, the eve of the election in 2024, I did like 20 videos, short, like 1.5, 2 minute videos, why every group I could possibly think of should vote for Donald Trump. Why an atheist should vote for Donald Trump. Why a Puerto Rican should vote for Donald Trump. Why a disabled person. Why a Democrat should, right? The point is you want to make your case to as broad of a base as possible. If you're a car salesman, you don't want to be like, look, this car is only for, people that want to drive real fast. Oh, you're a family man? Here's why the car's for you. Oh, you're a single mother? Here's why the car's for you. Oh, you're someone that's like, an athlete? Here's why this car's for you, right? You want to be able to make that case. And I truly believe that about Christianity. I believe that we can make the case that Christianity is right for everyone. So in this sense, that I'm arguing Christian nationalism in the sake I am, I believe that I could argue why that would be better for a secularist. However, the problem with that is because their moral beliefs are subjective, right? It's hard to pinpoint that. So I'll have to find out like issues that he really believes. For example, maybe one of his issues will be gay rights, right? And I'll say, here's why you should prefer my vision of Christian nationalism if you want to really advocate for gay rights, because even though we may find it immoral and a sin, we're not throwing you off buildings. And the current secular trajectory that we're on in the United States will eventually lead us to a place like the United Kingdom. And the United Kingdom in 50 years may outright make it not only illegal to be a homosexual, but may call for the death penalty for it, right? And so if the current trajectory of the secular humanist would lead to Sharia law, wouldn't you prefer a Christian system that's not going to be as harsh? So I'll be able to argue that, I think. But I think the better point is the second point, which is your sort of moral foundation is completely subjective and lacking anyways, right? And so in order to have like a stable foundational principle, right, and we're arguing at a higher plane that you should come to our plane, it would be better for you as an individual, but it might not be better for the things that you are claiming to prioritize. So yeah, like you right now claim abortion is something that you want, right? Yeah, I'm not going to lie and tell you, trust me, if you vote for us, abortion will be more prevalent. Of course not. The opposite. I'm going to say that you will be convinced that abortion is murder and that you will say, I'm glad I came to this position, right? And so because we're operating in a framework that I think is stable, that this is a life, that we shouldn't extinguish it. So that's going to be the preponderance of what I'm arguing. And, this is different because I'm in a more difficult position because we're not arguing Christianity versus secularism, right? Those debates, the way you win that as a Christian is to basically like convince that these, not only is your system good, but their system is malleable. There's nothing stable there, right? But now he only has to defend the status quo. So he could say, well, I do have a stable system, the status quo. I could argue, but the status quo is all over the place, right? It could change on a whim, right? If it's true that the current system isn't Christian, right, and it is dominated by more secular principles in our political system, well, then it's at the whims of the society, right? If tomorrow we decide that it's okay to have, half-naked men parade around public schools, then it is, because that's the legal framework that we've set. Right? It's just whatever the mood is of what you can convince the populace of at the time. And the secular humanists, like, they have no answer to this. They never do. And and listen, I'm someone who was an atheist. And even then, my answer was just smug. Well, I don't need Sky Daddy to tell me not to murder people.
Deflection, yeah.
Right. But it's like, okay, even if that's true, right, why? What is my foundational moral principle? Because at the end of the day, I'm going to believe things like, here's how it is. All of us are human and all of us are fallible and sinful. And we're always going to make excuses. 90%, I talked about this on the show yesterday with my lawyer friend Ryan, right? Where it's like, how many criminals truly think that they're bad people? Not many. Many make excuses. Well, I had a reason for this, or it's because the world screwed me over, or this, that, and the other. So if you allow your moral principles to be at the whims of subjectiveness, you're always going to find excuses for the things you're doing are moral, right? Even if objectively outsiders would say, well, no, I take these pair of shoes from the store. Well, what's your moral framework that allows it? Well, I did it for a good reason. I did it for my child. He really
Right.
needs those shoes. Right?
Right.
And so therefore my moral principle is stealing itself isn't inherently wrong. It's okay if it's done for a reason that's good. Well, how do you define good? Well, that it was of beneficial to another person that I care about. Yes, but it was of detrimental to another person, right? Who also has people that care about them. How do you evaluate that? Well, Christians evaluate it by saying because God says it's wrong. That's it. There's
Yeah.
a higher authority. And if you yourself become the authority that gets to determine, surprise, surprise, 95% of the time, you're going to determine it in a way that's beneficial to you as an individual. And then all of a sudden, when we have millions of people doing that, we can see how flawed our system becomes. Now, all of a sudden, because, it's like source. All of a sudden, we have questions like, well, why shouldn't minor attracted persons be allowed to have, if they're born that way, you see how quickly it runs afoul?
Right, of course.
And so that's sort of the frame. So that's the framework I'm going to attack it on, where it's like, if we even look at where we're at society today compared to where we were 30 years ago, it's clearly a secular trend that's getting way worse. Divorce getting higher. Wait, we're importing populations that believe disparate things. Unity in the countries at like lows that we haven't seen since like Vietnam War and then since the Civil War. Right? We see more decadence. How many young women are trying to make a livelihood selling their bodies now that it's all over the internet? This is not healthy. Birth rates significantly declining, human interaction declining at a rapid pace. All of these things, I think you could trace back to sort of the idea of secularism. That we have prioritized individual pride and greed and like subjective morality over an objective morality. And my opinion is that the best objective morality is Christianity. And I could argue why it's better than Islam or Judaism, etc. I can't argue why one particular denomination of Christianity is better because I just don't know enough. But that's not, fortunately for me, that's not the prompt. So,
Right.
But yeah, that's my strategy basically. To argue that through a legal framework, and I'm not sitting here to say, Acts 13 verses 2-7 says this. So how about that? And I would be like, right, I think that Christians could have a robust debate on specifically what those passages are. But the overarching framework of the 10 Commandments on what most Christians agree with. Yeah, things like porn's bad. Yeah, abortion's bad. It should be limited, if not eliminated. I think those are good things. And the more we prioritize and push those forward, the nuanced debates later of who has the exact and correct interpretation of Christianity, fine. It's like I tell my libertarian friends all the time. Like, I used to be more libertarian than I am now. But the way I see it, the paleocons, the Christian nationalists, the libertarians, all of these other groups, like, we have all these differences. But the problem is, I'm reversed here. Like, the problem is, like, we're way over here on the left. And we all need to come this way. Now, eventually, we'll get to a point where it's like, we're going to fracture. Well, here's what I think it is. But first, we got to go this way. So for all of the different, I completely understand why there are a lot of debate. DebateCon's going to be all religious debates. There's going to be a ton of Protestant versus Catholic versus Orthodox versus, LDS. There's going to be a ton of these debates. For me, it's like, I understand it. As someone who's sort of non-denominational, part of me is like, but by far the most important thing is just to move people to Christianity. Then we can have these specific debates. But if you believe that Christianity is the most important thing to you, then you would have to believe that getting to the root of the truth is immensely important. And even if someone's 98% of the way to the truth, you'll want to vehemently argue, but here's why you need to get my denomination and that 2%. I get that. But from a political point of view and a cultural point of view, I think that all of us moving with the same momentum in the same direction, Protestant, Mormon, Christian, whatever, of any denomination, Orthodox, Catholicism, it doesn't matter. We all need to move in that direction and push for that. And then I'm prepared, once we start to see massive movement, let's have these debates. Let's have the discussions on what denomination's correct and not. But we're so secular right now that, my goodness, like, there needs to be a mass movement in that direction. That's the way I see it. So.
Yeah, I guess my main thing would be I couldn't call it a Christian nation unless people were actually getting converted, and then the people of the country would be actually Christian by the standards of what the Bible says. I totally agree with you on that. Practically, we got to do something because there are a lot of horrible social things going on that we need to fight against, and of course, we're going to vote for, I voted against Trump in the first two primaries because I thought Cruz was preferable, but I still voted for Trump. And I thought DeSantis was preferable in my primary. I still voted for Trump. Why? Because even though Trump's not perfect, I don't think he's a Christian. I still want better, and I'll take better over worse. It's just simple as that. I just gave you verses and things like that to cut off any kind of attack and maybe humiliate them on not knowing that, hey, the things you think are part of Christianity aren't. So what's your argument? That's the main thing.
Yeah, and I'm going to hesitate to quote verses because if he says but this verse, then I'm in trouble. I'm going to be like but I do agree, and I will mention this in principle. I'll say, like, look, the principle is we're sort of talking about these ceremonial things, like don't eat pork, right? This is how I'll put it. You tell me if this works. So yeah, the Old Testament's like don't eat pork, and these were more of like a ceremonial, like showing of God that you're taking this seriously, right? But that's different than the moral laws. The moral laws of the Ten Commandments applies universally through all cultures in the Old Testament, and it applies going through the New Testament and through Christ, right? These ceremonial laws could change, right? And then the third category is sort of the civil laws. Like, there's an understanding of incrementalism. Someone who's totally antithetical to like a civilized culture, we wouldn't say immediately like, Moses prescribes to you or God prescribes to you. You have to make this radical change overnight. We would say, okay, look, little incremental steps to get you to the point where then you could be living as, in the eyes of the New Testament, as Christ as much as possible. But we understand the need for incremental steps, which sort of suggests that my version of Christian nationalism that I'm suggesting would be a good thing. It doesn't have to be like we're mandating everyone Christian today.
Right. Yours is most defensible. Your definition is the most defensible I can think of, despite the fact that there's no two-house legislature and Supreme Court and executive branch in the Bible or any structure or whatever. But I think yours would be my most preferred definition if there was a solid across-the-board definition that everybody agreed upon, to the exclusion of the ethno-statists like Stephen Wolfe and Joel Webben and those guys.
Yeah, I don't buy into the ethno-state things. I have no problem with having pride in your ethnicity. I don't have a problem with that. But the idea that at this point, this country, first off, even if you wanted it to be an ethno-state, too late. Like it's like the people that are like, well, we should eliminate guns in the United States. Too late. Like, it's not going to happen. It's just not even in the realm of practicality, right? And so, like, the ethno-state idea, it's out the window. It's just not. Maybe in a country like Japan, if you wanted to argue it, you could say they're still far enough along that they would be able to somehow enforce that, but it's not going to happen in the United States, nor do I want it to. I don't have a problem saying that, as a white person, I find it quite offensive that people want to celebrate like white people in decline, this, that, and the other. But that's a different story altogether than sort of advocacy for an ethno-state. I'll never understand it, to be honest. I've argued with people that believe this. What do I have in common with a secular sort of ivory tower white liberal more than my black neighbor is one of the most base Christians I know? Right. Now, you might say, yes, but that's an exemption to the rule. Even if that's true, right, then why would we have rules based on, stereotypes that, even if they're true 90% of the time, affect the people that are the outliers in a negative way? And that's how you get to this insane stuff like this caller the other day that's like, I find Rachel Wilson to be a based Orthodox Christian. She's the best. I read her books. Insane. But if she has 1/64th Jewish ethnic blood in her, deport her. Why does that make any sense whatsoever? That's so dumb, right? So we deport her because you think most practicing Jews are bad, okay? And then we keep people even if they're presumably an ethnically European person that practiced Judaism would get to stay? What are you even talking about? This makes no sense. But I was a little aggro in that conversation anyways, because people attacking, like, with rumors like that. Oh, I secretly know someone that knows she's Jewish, and that's why Andrew went. So dumb. But, hey, Reexamination, always appreciate it, man. Remind us again your channel name so people could check you out.
Yeah, so it should be a Reexamination Show. I'll say hi in the chat so anybody can go on there and see the video I've got up there. You actually make an appearance in the video somewhere as well. It's an analysis of the first debate. I think I definitely required a lot of explaining to clear up that kind of stuff, because the scuffle between me and Andrew was a lot of fog of war and a lot of talking.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I saw someone in the chat being like, I don't know why you would go against a Christian. Well, understand this, right? A lot of it was for the sake of the game, right? Like, it was like, I know there were a couple times you're like, yeah, I guess I'll go up, because they were trying to get people to come up for these prompts. People just weren't really.
Well,
That's
you did. Here's the thing: you didn't know the prompts going into. I found out watching your show. You didn't know the prompts. You
Yep.
had to make them 5 minutes before. We didn't know the prompts either. We knew the broad prompts ahead of time, and I had things that I think should be said in the Christian YouTube sphere that are just not being said. Number one being, what is Christian nationalism as defined by you? Because I'm hearing some guys say Christian nationalism is requirements of race and things like that. And number two, if we're going to fight degeneracy, it goes into, well, what is considered adultery, blah, 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 blah. That's in my video. I'm not going to bring it here.
Yeah. So I don't think that, like, and again, I don't think if someone was to criticize you, right, and say, well, why would you, someone who's broadly agrees with you on 90% of the stuff, why would you be attacking them? Well, you could levy the same criticism at Andrew, right? Anytime Andrew debates a Mormon or a Protestant or a Catholic, right? Couldn't you make the same criticism? Yes, but they agree with 90%. The reason is because you feel that your direct interpretation is most correct, and you would like people to come to that direct interpretation. That doesn't mean that you're like, well, people that don't share that, but that are overarchingly Christian that I despise or think should be denigrated. It's just a conversation between two people that there wasn't acrimony over. It was just, hey, here's why I think I'm right. And Andrew's like, here's why I think I'm right. So I didn't have a problem with it personally. I thought it was fun. So,
yeah. Oh, and also to be clear, I think Andrew and I would definitely agree Mormons would not be considered within Christianity because they think Christ is the brother of the devil and that he's not God. So that's kind of important.
The Mormon thing's a little bit, part of researching for debates and stuff is, I'm given a task and I made it clear, like, I'm not really comfortable arguing theology at this point. And it is one thing that I find sort of blasphemous. So I've been given the task of, if it's a religious debate, find the political ramifications. So like for LDS, it's like, well, what did Joseph Smith think politically? What did Brigham Young think politically? What were they doing in their day-to-day life? And even that, it's like, it's sort of spicy. Like, for example, one of the things that I read that the early LDS church was doing was like, they would basically steal land from their members. They were basically like, the tithing that you have to do is so high that these poor farmers that are having poor crop years, they're like, well, we can't meet the tithe. And so like Brigham Young will be like, that's fine, just give us your land. Fine.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that's really putting people in a bad position. These people that picked up their entire way of life and moved to Utah, to work the land, and then they're having bad years. And it's like, well, God said that you have to hand over your land to me.
Not to mention your wives.
Yeah, I mean, not good. Not good. Now, I'm sure I don't want to disparage any Mormons out there. I know many Mormons that are very good people, right? But and maybe you would push back on it. I'm just saying, when I was looking into the history of this, I was like, ugh.
I'm lacking in pathos, which I think you touched on earlier. It's like you want to appeal to more people, and I'm like, if I had the trifecta of pathos, logos, ethos, or however that goes, I think I fall pretty heavily on the logos ethos side, and my pathos is pretty deficient. So forgive me for that.
That's all right. Well, hey man, appreciate the call, and hopefully we'll talk soon. Hopefully I don't let you down tonight, and all the other Christians arguing this. So.
Oh, you'll do fine. Again, the J.D. Hall Joel McDermott debate. The J.D. Hall's takes a great angle, so that's a good research point.
All right, man. Well, hey, you have a good one.
Thank you. You too.
All right. We're doing week on the super chats today, folks. We only have an hour left in the show. I wanted to put his link up, but for the life of me, I can't find his channel. Let me try to copy and paste the way his name's written here. Huh. No, not showing up. I just don't know. Anyways, maybe he'll put his... Oh, there we go. EOD got it. Nice. All right. All right, good stuff. So yeah, check him out. Check out his show. All right. We have two callers on the line. Jordan Lofgren, $5 says, you have a society of 10 people. 9 of the people are happy to essay the one for fun. Happiness being the standard is arbitrary and moronic. Totally agree. I think there is utility at looking at happiness metrics, but it's not the end all be all by any point. At all. Wicked Bally, $5 says, how about we repeal the Johnson Act that keeps tax exempt churches from speaking out? keep the tax exemption and cut off the government's Johnson. It's funny. That's good. Knack Tuck, $5 says, take my money. Jeez. Thank you. All right. More people sending money. Next up, we have Avarice. What's happening, sir?
Hey, coming in loud?
Yeah, sound good.
Fantastic. Dono's boys and girls morning crew. Come on, don't let us down.
You know what it is? It's voting day. They're like, they all had to put gas in their car to go vote today. So it's like,
speaking of voting day, so I did DM you something. I vetted it, so it's all good. I gave you the timestamp. I have Rob on voting day. If you want to bring that up at 3:40, and you only have to play about 30 seconds.
All right, 1 second. On Discord, for some reason I didn't have my Discord open, which means probably Mystery messaged me and was like, Rob, get clips together. We're doing the extravaganza tonight. No, nothing for Mystery. That's good.
Well, that's
all
fantastic.
Right, Avarice.
There we go.
Oh, this is good.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
What time?
At 3:40.
3:40.
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies.
Oh yeah, you're gonna love this. You see, now you know I vetted it.
I do. All right.
Rob on voting day, boys and girls.
Here we go.
Less art and more haste, Don.
Now, where are you going?
I already voted today. Cast for Monk and Tammany, by God. Twice.
Twice? Only twice? You call that doing your civic duty? Come with me.
Oh, no, you don't. Get back and sit down.
Here's another one. Clean them up good. Shave their beards off, boys, and send them back to vote again. All right, boys. Vote Monk Tammany. Monk Tammany.
It's New York, baby. Shave their beard and send them in again. Right? I mean, oh my goodness. It's absolute insanity. Yeah, I do feel like that, though. Like, giving my friends and family the business, like, come on, let's go. I'll pick you up. I'll drive you there. And I used to be this guy. People used to say this. They'd be like, well, would you pick me up and drive me to the polling place if I was going to vote against your preferred candidate? And I was like, of course, civic duty and all that. Now I'm like, no, I want to win. So I'll pick up and drive the people to vote and encourage the people to vote that I know will vote in the way that I agree with.
Who are you voting? Tamley, good, in there. Who you voting? Clog, get the fuck out of here.
Get out of here.
You're not welcome to this van.
Now, I don't want to spoil that, but Bill the Butcher did not accept the results of that election. Just saying. He had, by the way, Bill the Butcher looking pretty based, right? Like, for like sort of the natives here, screw all these immigrants, blah, 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 blah.
Dude, I love that movie. It's an American spirit movie, if anything else. It shows that we'll fight for anything.
I mean, but like Daniel Day, the movie's an average movie, except Daniel Day-Lewis, who makes it exceptional.
No,
right?
it's always Daniel Day-Lewis, though, right? You just need an average movie. Then you just Daniel Day-Lewis. Let's go.
It's so good. But like the whole scene, right? Like, okay, the whole pro-America stuff's neat to watch in retrospect, but the entire idea, right, where the only man he's ever respected is sort of the priest, right, who is Leo DiCaprio's dad. So when Leo's the whole thing's he wants to get in good with Bill the Butcher and then take him out. And when he's explaining, right, he's like, I killed the last good man I met. I killed 10 years ago, right? And he tells that story about his fake eye. And he's like, yeah, the priest had me dead to rights, like had me killed, and he spared me. And I turned away from him, and I couldn't live with the shame, so I cut out my own eye and mailed it to him. It's like, oh, shit, what a badass. It's like, I was so shamed my eye turned away from him. He's like, I would have cut out both eyes, but then I couldn't fight the bastard. It's like, damn, that's hardcore, man. My buddy used to quote that all the time. The scene where, he finds out who Leo is, and he's like, where should I stab him? And someone yells the heart. He's like, heart! This boy has no heart! Like, it's such a great scene. But
my favorite scene in the movie, I know it's like a small scene, but my favorite scene is when the firefighters roll up, and then they just roll, no, on to the next building. Fuck this.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it's like, the corruption, and it's crazy because I know some folks from New York City, and they're like, voting here's always been ass corrupt. Like, it always has been. Like, yeah, of course it's sort of hyperbolic in that movie, but the idea of like all the bribes and the shady bullshit that's going on election day, it's like, yeah, that's New York, baby. That's the way it's always been.
There it is, in a nutshell.
So, are you voting today?
Well, I don't think my state is, so I gotta find a way to maneuver some votes around. No.
I have to shave. I have to shave my beard.
I have to shave my beard. I was thinking, I thought if I go in bald, they won't ask questions. They'll just think I'm on the left, and then I'll vote right. You know, it's all about the bald sensation, right?
That's right.
The bald cap on.
Yeah. So it's been. What'd you think of that debate with Andrew last night? Did you watch any of that?
Yeah. Oh, it was hard to watch. I don't even know where to begin. It was hard to watch. Like, so I'm in the Foundry, right, with everybody. So everybody's in there. So it's like Andrew talk and then Foundry Spurg the whole time, right?
Yeah.
Specifically because you got Nish in there, who's like, I'll
crush this guy. Yeah.
Not TOS friendly words for YouTube.
The guy was so bad. He had the exact wrong combination of like ignorance and confidence, and it's like, and rudeness, right? Where he's just like constantly interrupting, and like he starts right out of the gate. You can tell that if I'm not mistaken, I'm reading into this a little, right? But it looks like Andrew's got himself a beverage there. It looked like maybe he had spruced up his Coca-Cola with maybe a shot of something, I think Andrew approached it as like sort of this relaxed, particularly his opening statement, which is like, hey, we both agree marriage is good. Let's have a conversation with like, how can we make it better? How can we, mitigate the risk of divorce and stuff? And this guy just to immediately be like, oh, you can't keep up with me. You're dressed like you're from the 1940s and I'm dressed immaculately. And then, to escalate all the way to the end where it's basically like, insulting Rachel.
Well,
like, fuck you.
I was already get this. You got me. So the funny part is, let's get to the funny part of this whole thing, right? Is then at the end, right? He basically didn't contend with Andrew. He contended with a woman,
right?
Rachel.
What's funny? Because he's like, my book sold more than hers. Well, you just looked at the live stream. Your live had half of that of Andrew's.
Right? Like even our women are better than you. Yeah. You have to you're comparing ourselves to. It
was surreal. Like, and what gets me is like I feel like I'm not red pill. I'm not. I'm very closer in alignment with marriage with Andrew than I am with like the Andrew Tates and stuff of the world. But of all the red pill people that I've seen, I feel like every single one of them could have argued that case better than that guy. Like, he was so bad. Like, because the way you argue, and I talked about this a little last night, is you're like, yeah, okay, only 33% of individuals that have ever been married in the United States end in divorce, right? That means if I'm acknowledging that marriage is good, right? 2/3 of the people right out of the gate, I acknowledge marriage is preferable for you. That's a fucking, when your first line of your opening statement is, yes, marriage is good. It's the foundational backbone of this country. It's like, that might not be the opening line if your position's going to be marriage bad. That might not be the line I would choose to put forth just from a pure tactical debate standpoint. So I think the very first line of his opening statement let you know, like, this guy has no clue what he's talking about.
But clearly your lack of donos just shows your lack of popularity, and not actually your sales on the back end. So let's, like, I think
true.
Maybe it's your audience and the lack of donos.
I know. Here's what's happening. I know why the audience hasn't donoed. Right.
This is the Rob Noerr Show.
That's what it is.
It's not the Noerr Rob Show.
Right. Now we
This is my favorite show.
It is my favorite show.
Because it is my show. If this was your show, you'd probably like it more. But maybe that's just because it was your show. But it's not your show. It's the Rob Noerr Show.
Woo! Oh, that's it, right? Oh, no! Oh, no!
This is the Rob Noerr Show. It's not the Noerr Rob Show. This is my favorite show. Because it is my show. If this was your show, you'd probably like it more. But maybe that's
There we
Now
go.
listen, here's the thing. What was his name? Coach Greg Adams. By the Coach Greg Adams standard, if I don't reach the goal tonight, then he's right and I'm wrong.
Oh,
That's it. That's his standard. So there you go, day shift. If you want Coach Greg Adams to be right with all of his insanity. I mean, basically, what's that guy's? He wouldn't even say what his book said, right? I'm assuming he's like giving dudes advice like dress sharp, get a nice car, bang a bunch of chicks. That's it. That's this dude. And it's funny because he's like, oh, Andrew, the prescriptions you're making, we've heard people say over and over again. What are you offering, dude? Oh man, let me monetize how telling dudes to go bang a bunch of hoes.
Well,
And,
he could be just if he does this over the internet, he could just be bringing up like the website, like the superiorman.com, and just be reading off of it. Like, all right, you want to dress in Burberry jeans? Yeah, this just looks. Oh man, that'd be hilarious.
It's just, yeah, and someone says he really flipped out when Andrew pointed out that his prescription is the same as the feminist, which is true. Like, and I've said this for years, and this isn't a big surprise. The feminist, like, oh, free love and just go bang a bunch of dudes and blah blah blah. Like, that's every secular guy's like, right, yes. That's sure, boy, you're showing us. Thanks so much. You know, it's like, what a joke. So if you're the red pill guy, it's like basically your prescription's the same as the feminist, where it's like, yeah, sure, free sex. Yep, why not? And yeah, if you're that, you know, and here's the thing, if you're that guy, he looks, let me steel man his position. He looks like a wealthy guy. Maybe he's, you know, he feels like he's happy going out banging these people, this, that, and the other. Like, is that going to make you a fulfilled person? Like when you're sitting around and you're 65 and sort of your sex drive's gone, and now what? What have you got left?
I think there's also a big difference. Not even just to put up on Andrew Tate in a difference here, but I think even Andrew Tate is different than this guy, because Andrew Tate would say you at least have children with these people for that purpose. I'm not a big, I don't know much about Andrew Tate. Well, I'm just kind of from an idea of what I get from him, right? This guy is just like go bang a bunch of chicks, right? For not even the purpose of reproduction.
But I mean, he couldn't even, I don't know. Granted, I only watched an hour of the debate, so I don't know. But I mean, at one point where he's like, he's isolating things that are problems, right? He's like, you know, oh, you know, hoes sleeping around on their men, and you know, single.
He's like, I caught the first half, I gave up, I did some stuff,
and then I saw the last 10
back.
minutes. Yeah, that's about it. So, like, when Andrew asks him, like, what's your prescription for these problems? You know, single motherhood and abortions and all that. And he says literally, I don't have any. Like, the black community is doomed. Like, so just nihilism. So the argument's just, we're all screwed, so just go bang a bunch of people until the end of time. That's it? That's your prescription. Right? And it's like, we're not, like, the idea that we're giving up now is nonsensical. Like, theoretically, you could be right. But I know a 100% surefire way that nothing will ever get better to say we've already lost, so just give in. Like, I don't understand this black-pilled, it doesn't make sense to me, you know, as far as I'm concerned, so.
I never understand the whole pill thing. I just hope that, like, everybody gets, like, to, like, what I would define as, like, a Christian family, right, in the end of it, right, making children and trying to survive, right? And times might be hard in what that may look like today, but I always hope that that's the ideal that people want, right? Is that value of duty to pass on.
There is nothing like in all of my life, there's, you know, the two greatest things I've ever done in my life was getting married to my wife and having a kid, right? That's it. There's nothing like it. Like, everything, and I'm not saying it's right for everyone. I'm not. I'm just saying I can sit here until I'm blue in the face and tell you how awesome it is to be a kid. Have one, you'll see. Now, listen, I understand that divorce could be tragic and you know, I've heard horror stories. I know this. I absolutely know.
Yeah, things happen.
And I absolutely do agree with a lot of the red pill sort of like the war against men. I believe that. I actually do. I think that men, like white people, like Christians, they're being deemed by the left as oppressors, and it's okay to shit on them. In fact, here, let me throw the red pill people a bone. This is something I saw today. This is hilarious. So, one of the biggest metrics we use to decide sort of the gender gap is from, where's it at? Did I screw this up? I thought I saved this.
Oh no, Rob!
I'm screwing it. Here we go.
EOD should have had these things flagged for you right away with real nice sectioned off. This is all EOD's fault.
I don't have a Mr. E. I need a Mr. E to be like, bring it up, let's see it. That's Scientific American. That's silly. That's not what I'm looking for. All right, I didn't save this. Come on, Rob. This is a big mistake. Now I got to look it up. Luckily, I know where to look it up. So there's this like, I don't know, like World Health Organization bullshit or whatever. Let's see. And Brett Weinstein posted this today. It's absolutely hilarious. Let's see.
Well, I do like comedy.
Ha! Right.
Ha!
There, see, I guess it's not hilarious in that sense. Where are we at? I'll find this damn thing. How did I not save this? Because I talked to my wife about how funny it was.
How'd you not hit the like button on it, Rob?
It really is. Like, I can't tell you how many times I read something and then I don't save it, and then I'm desperately looking for it. I'm like, I know I read that. All right. Where are we at? All right. I might just have to tell you what was said.
All right, we're going for the paraphrasing.
Which is not good.
Get ready for close your eyes, everybody, for a visual.
It does not
visualization time.
Yeah. November 3rd. One. All right. So basically, what it was this organization, like this international organization. Maybe I saved it in my bookmarks. Let me check real quick. That might be where it's at. No, apparently not. All right. Well, sorry. So this international organization, like World Health Organization or something, it keeps a gender disparity gap. And what it says is anytime there's a specific field that women are lagging behind men, that counts towards a gender disparity. But if there's a field where men are lagging behind women, that's called parity. So what this means is, according to this international body that is the definitive, this keeps track of like which nation has the biggest gender disparity, et cetera, et cetera. If men are lagging behind in every single metric, every single one, it would still be impossible for them to ever be negative on the gender disparity gap. Because anytime a man is lagging behind, that just qualifies as like, well, that's just the normal cause of things. That's just parity. That's okay. It's only when the exact opposite situation that we're like, well, that's a disparity. So as such, let's say that for whatever metrics that are being used, that they decide, yep, roughly half the time men are advantaged, roughly half the time men are disadvantaged. Therefore, there's no gender disparity, right? It equals out. No, it would never be that way. It's always going to be, if men are losing 99% of the time, but ahead 1% of the time, it will be 1% gender disparity that women are negatively affected. That's how the statistics would be put.
That's crazy.
And so it's like, when you look, so I guess not that funny. I expected you to laugh, but no, I'm just kidding. Yes! I don't know why I didn't save that.
Why didn't you save that?
I don't know. It was good.
Also in the chat for Rob for not saving the gender prosperity gap.
Yeah. So it's like when you look at this sort of, so like I get it from the red pill's perspective. It's like, what the fuck is this shit? What is it that when, for me, and you're gonna quickly notice this, the most important thing in my life to me is my wife and my son. If me and my wife ever split up, my son's gonna be everything to me, right? And so I can't think of something more damaging than not having custody of my son or not at least getting regular visitation. And yet that's a real thing disproportionately against men in our court system. It's getting slightly better. So is there anything, if that's the most important thing in life, and on that one particular issue, men are fucked, yeah, that sucks. That absolutely sucks. However, the alternative is not to just be like, well, then I'll just fuck a bunch of chicks, because you may end up having a kid anyways, and guess what? Guess what your chances of seeing your kid if you're not married is? Way lower. Way lower. And so that doesn't help with that, the most important issue. And then certainly, like, it's not going to help with any of the other issues that are actually important. So instead, what we should do is say, how can we make marriages better? Yeah. Or as an individual, how can you choose someone to ensure that you have a better chances of having a successful marriage? There's no guarantee.
I think a big thing is we've just allowed people to run away from too many problems. Not even just in that, but like we're just allowing people just to run away from problems and just escapism, right? Instead of letting people just. I think that has to show for a lot of things.
It's sort of nihilistic that, like, Pearl debated Andrew on this exact topic, right? And Pearl's just basically like, men should check out of marriage. That's it. And Andrew's like, no, men should approach marriage through a Christian framework, an ecclesiastic framework, and also get a prenup. And if you do those two things, then you heavily mitigate. You know,
we go through Christianity and get a prenup.
That's right. I know it's the Christianity thing more important, but the prenup.
Hey, don't you have a debate tonight?
Yeah,
right?
Christian nationalism.
Oh my gosh, I'm so I've never seen you do Christianity, so this is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, you might be like, why do I watch this, dude? We'll see how it goes. I think it'll go fine. I'm a good debater, regardless of the topic, but I really didn't want to debate this topic.
I don't know. I was voting to put you down in the F rankings in our tier listing. I've seen you debate. I said all I said was he just gish gallops the whole time.
I'm gonna try to bump up to an F plus tonight in your
okay.
estimation. So that's it. But
I'm super excited. I'm gonna be tuning in.
9 o'clock Eastern time. Now, I don't know if Andrew's debating tonight. I don't think he is. I don't know when his next debate is, but he's got a lot of like the whatever stuff coming up. That Naomi chick he's going to debate again, the olive jar chick.
Oh, Lord.
And Jake's going to be there again. So could it be revenge of the olive jar?
Olive jar
going to have to?
you know what would be funny is if he just plays it off and can't do it again.
That's what I would do. Just super into it, like the whole debate. Don't even say before we start the debate. I'm going to open this olive jar. And just 2 hours of just
the next another arm stream. Oh, guys, it happened again. We need to raise it.
I think it'd be great. Yeah. Well, all right, Avarice.
I'll let you keep going. You got people in the back.
Yeah,
it's stacking up. Look at that. There was only 2 when I was back there. So
enough people are calling in to complain about you.
Well, you know, I mean, I figured I even sat there one day. I was like, you know what? If Rob didn't like me up here, I wouldn't be up here.
I always enjoy when you come up. So,
all right, I enjoy the time.
We will talk soon. I hope you appreciate the debate tonight. So we'll see you, man.
I will later.
Now, listen, I will say this. It is ironic. Obviously, this day show is a day show, right? But the more debates and interviews and things like that I do, like the less super chats I get, which I get, right? Because you tend to get more when you're like, hey, send in super chats than if you're just talking. People are watching you and they're not really vested in putting super chats in. But we are really trying to raise money here. Not just for me, but in general, we're trying to get people down to DebateCon. So that's going to be coming up in, what is today, Tuesday? Yeah, 8 days. I'll be leaving in 8 days. Stupid gnat. So super chats, if we could reach our goal, it would be mucho appreciated. But that's okay. We'll do the show anyways. Jordan, $2 says, still want that Rob J. Dyer discussion. I'd be happy to talk to him. I really would. Landon, $20. Thank you so much, man. Says, hopefully the reason super chats are slow is because everyone's busy voting. That's what I'm hoping. Our good friend Zach Gelpy, $10 for the day shift. Listen, Zach has called into my show several times, and he's admitted that he's Jewish, and he's sending me money. So you know what that means? All the people that are currently spurging out in my video the other day, where the woman called in and said that she wants to remove anyone with any percentage of ethnic Jewish blood from the country, they're going to be like, oh, Rob's on the paywall. Netanyahu gave him the call through his agent, Zach Gelpy. Halloos, $10. Thank you. Says, just doing my civic duty. Nice hoodie, Avarice. Does have a nice hoodie. He's dressed like he's from the 1940s. And John Smith, $10 says, every dollar to Rob is a dollar the future ex-wife can't take from you. Coach Greg or whatever his name is, 2020. Smart. Brilliant. Didn't even think of that line. All right. Ulix, what's happening today? Uh-oh. Can you hear me, sir? Hello, Ulix. Check. All right, we'll bring you down. We'll bring up the next person. Don't worry, we'll try you again after this. Halloos, how you doing, man?
How you doing, Rob? Can you hear me well?
I hear you just fine. How's it going?
Do you notice what mode I'm in right now?
Let's see. I don't know. You tell me.
I'm in Rob mode.
Oh, with looking down. Yeah, that is me thinking. Yeah, I'm like when I'm listening and I'm thinking, I look down. Yeah, it's funny. I don't know why that is. Maybe it has to do with like because in debate I was always looking down, keeping notes. One time I did a debate, like so. Here it's sort of weird. I always kept handwritten notes. I didn't really have a laptop, but a lot of your evidence was paper, right? So back when I debated in college, everybody had actual paper evidence. Then it started to gradually change where people would put all of their evidence on a thumb drive and then you'd put it into your computer and you would read it on your computer as they're reading it, right? So when everyone took notes on paper, or I mean, when your evidence was in paper, my partner and 90% of people kept all their notes on computer, right? I never did. I kept mine on paper, right? One time in a debate, I don't know what happened, but my hand just cramped up like this and I couldn't write. So I had to like whisper to my partner, I'm like, I can't keep notes. My hand just froze up on me. It hurts terribly. I don't know what to do. So I tried to use his notes, but everybody uses their own form of shorthand. So sometimes it's difficult to decipher. So I was like, well, fuck it. I'm just going to try to just wing it and memorize what these people say, talking as fast as humanly possible. So maybe, though, that's why I'm looking down, because normally when I'm listening to a debate, I'm like this. I'm keeping notes the whole time as I'm listening. So maybe that's just a weird habit I've picked up.
Oh,
But I
thought,
do notice that. I
yeah,
look down a lot when I'm thinking. I'm like,
yeah. When you look down, I'm like, oh wait, he's getting engaged in this conversation. This is not good for his opponent. Like every time I see you like tip the cap where I can't see your eyes, you just go off on a tangent that's already in your mind. So I don't think notes are an issue or a flash drive is an issue. Your brain is the flash drive, and you're really
it's getting
good at
weaker,
oration.
man.
It's getting
22-year-old
weaker, you
Robs.
say.
Yeah, my goodness. Like that's one of the things with like the interruptions. It used to be like you could remember. It's really hard to remember your chain of thought. Like if you have a serious argument you're about to make, and then someone just keeps spurting out and interrupting you. Oftentimes, what happens is it's like I don't know. I think it's probably something biological in us. Like a dog, they tell you to like break their train of thought. So like if they're running for a rabbit, you do something like you know pull on the leash or you shout, and it kind of breaks their train of thought. It's like, huh? That's sort of the way I think we probably are. I don't know. I'm not a biologist, but it's something like that. So you'll have a thought and you'll be like, what was I gonna say? So it used to be that I was able to like I could filter through the shit. Now I find myself like, huh? Well, what the fuck was I about to say there? But it usually works out. It helps to be on the right side of every issue. That helps a lot. So
It does. It does. Speaking of civic duty that we were talking about earlier, I had no idea it was voting day, but I did do my civic duty for the past week. I was a member of a jury. I was a member of a
oh,
jury.
no kidding. How'd
Yeah,
that go?
out of 72 people, they picked me out of 12, and I was not expecting that at all, but I should have because out of the 72, we were ranked accordingly by the numbers. I was number one.
Nice.
I was number one, and then I asked all the questions of the prosecution and the defense, and they choose me out of 12 other people. And we booked him, Rob.
You got him, hook him and book him. You
We
got him.
booked him. Yeah, I can talk about the case now because the case is closed and everything. But yeah, he's convicted.
Wow. So the last time I was picked, I've never done jury duty, and I'd never been picked. And then I actually got picked. I was excited. I was like, yeah, I'll be on a jury. And the problem was my work. So this jury, you had to show up like on a Thursday, which was fine. I normally didn't work Thursdays. And then like they send you the notification, hey, you're in this pool. We need you to show up to the courthouse on this day. Here's the potential days of the trials, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of it worked out, except 3 days before this, my coworker was like, I'm very sick. I can't make it in. Like he had COVID or something. So then I had to like contact, and I was like, look, this isn't a general job. Like if I don't show up to the construction site, oh, well, they could still do their job. Literally, I can't legally leave. There
Yeah.
is no one else to come into this home, and I can't just leave this person here. They were very cool about it, though. They're like, no problem. We'll take care of it. It won't be an issue. But I was sort of worried that they'd be like, sorry, dude, you were picked. You got to show up. And then I'm going to be in a tight spot where it's like, oh, man. But I was excited to do it.
We
I
had
thought that-
one extra juror just in case that happened. We had one extra, and luckily everybody was on time, and that was pretty cool. That everybody was on time, nobody forgot. But yeah, an experience to say the least. Rob, I wanted to kind of talk to you about this New York mayoral race, and I saw the SNL sketch, and believe it or not, the mayoral debate was way funnier than the SNL sketch.
Right.
I can clearly tell that the media have a bias towards Zoran. Zoran's their little darling. In the SNL sketch, I clearly saw it. They were not like poking fun at Zoran himself, just the other two candidates, but they were kind of like veering towards an ideation that Zoran's not going to solve anything with his proposals. And honestly, I feel like Curtis Lewa, after listening to the whole mayoral debates, I feel like he is the guy for the job. And my stepdad, he used to be in Brooklyn. Curtis Lewa has a mythical aura to him from like older New Yorkers, because like
He did the Guardian Angels.
His Guardian Angels. He's like a folk hero in New York. This is the guy. This is the ideal candidate. But New York, I feel like they're just so gone with a lot of these liberal cities on the coast. I feel like there's never going to be a Republican in major office again.
So Sliwa is very liberal for a Republican, right? Like
Yeah.
a lot of his position. He's not. This isn't, Ted Cruz. This isn't, this is someone who's like very moderate for a Republican. Here's for those fans. Why would you consider voting for Sliwa? Here we go. This is for fans of old school wrestling like me. See if you remember this terrible angle.
In this day and age of Uzi-toting, dope-sucking, psychopathic killing machines, you have to be willing to go out there and do battle with them to take back the neighborhoods from them, but to do it without weapons, and to do it with pride in this red beret, this T-shirt, and this jacket. So a lot don't have what it takes. They don't have the right stuff. Most importantly, they don't have the heart.
You know, all my life I fought for life, liberty, and justice, American way. These streets right here, they need law, order, and justice. That's what the Guardian Angels are all about.
So that's the Big Boss Man, right? He was a wrestler, and there was a while where he dropped the gimmick, the Big Boss Man, and he became the Guardian Angel. But that Sliwa part's true. I mean, obviously, he didn't train the Big Boss Man or anything like that, but he was with an organization called the Guardian Angels, and crime was so bad in like the 80s, they would go into these crime-infested neighborhoods and basically kick the shit out of people. Like, they were like vigilantes. And like he's saying, they weren't allowed to have weapons and shit like that. They just were like, look, if the cops can't do it, then we put on this red beret, and it's sort of like the community watch. That was the Guardian Angels. So Sliwa's been pushing for a safer New York, 30-something years. But yeah, so I know he kind of looks silly. He's on there wearing his red beret. Well, there's a reason. That was the symbol that they were using even back in the 80s, right? When they were doing this. And that's sort of the symbol that he's saying, that's still what I'm about, keeping the streets safe for New Yorkers, right? And weeding out this stuff. So it's interesting. Now that character of the Big Boss Man's, the Guardian Angels, was absolute dog shit. Like, they never did anything with him, but funny nonetheless. I saw that clip the other day and was like, hey, it's our boy Curtis Sliwa. There he is. He's on a I don't know if it was WCW or WWF, but one of the wrestling promotions. There he was, would guard grandmas, help people out with like tasks like mowing and cleaning up property and stuff like that. Yeah, that was the Guardian Angels. So there you go.
Yeah,
you can vote for that guy in New York City if you're there today for mayor. Not the
No,
Big Boss Man. He passed, but you can vote for.
I'm all the way down here in Texas. I won't be able to help the New Yorkers out. They know who the right guy is. I guarantee you they do. I feel like New York's one of those cities where a great foundation of law and order must be implemented before they can flourish. I feel like law and order is paramount to places like
they're going to find out, man. That's what's going to happen. They're going to find out. So, hey, man, if they choose Mamdani, all right, we'll see. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe Mamdani will do fantastically. I think it'll be a disaster economically, and it'll be a disaster for crime. That's what I think. But hey, who knows? This is what they want, and they brought in people, right? They brought in a bunch of people that are foreigners that are overwhelmingly supporting Mamdani. Here's what you get. Let it be a cautionary tale, of why this is a bad idea. So
I have one more thing to kind of bring up. As you know, Zoran has a pretty sizable Muslim following, and it always interests me why Islam is aligning with the American left. And I can only think of one thing, is because the American left, they're using the American left to combat the Christian right and combat the conservative right. so that the conservative right can be weaker. And if the conservative right and the Christian right are weak and they can deal with them using the American left, then they can infiltrate the American left and deal with the leftists really easily, because they don't have the same foundation, because essentially Islam is a conservative movement. It's a right-wing movement, and they are very masculine and they are very patriarchal. And
they vote for the left because they know the left's weak and uses this oppressor versus oppressed mindset. So they can claim to be oppressed. And then once they get power, the left gets ushered out. The same thing happened in Iran when, when the leftists celebrated sort of the overthrow of the government there in Iran. One of the first things that happened was the new, sort of Sharia law government came in and immediately started to take out the lefties. I think this is a video I saw the other day on this exact subject.
Lord help us. Just listen to this.
When I was an extremist, Islamist, fundamentalist, I would only vote left.
Why is that?
I saw them as very stupid. I would fear the conservatives because they come with principle. That's not someone they can brainwash. But the left, I know they have no values and no principles to begin with. I dare you to find one Islamic extremist that votes for Donald Trump. Never do it. They'd give their vote to the leftist who wants to run around in pride parades. And Islamic extremists are against gays and homosexuals and transgenders, but they want the left to go and get busy with that. And Omar, she's fighting for abortion rights. My body, my choice. Yes, go do that. Go do it. But would she have an abortion? Never. Would she kill a Muslim in her stomach? Never.
What is the fundamentalist and jihadi agenda for America?
The future of America has to be Muslim.
Lord.
I mean, that's it. In a nutshell, why wouldn't you support? Right? They don't want to support people that have a competing ideology that says, no, this Muslim ideology is wrong. We have Christianity. They don't want that. They want the people that say, oh, it's cultural relativism. All cultures are the best, except the one we have here. They're oppressors. Christianity is oppressor. The right wing are oppressors. The United States are oppressors. So therefore, everyone that's not that must be oppressed, and we must welcome them in. And like you see all of these fractures, like, gays for Palestine. Okay, listen, I'm not saying that you can't be gay and be against Zionism or be against sort of Israeli government, fine. But the idea that you're like speaking favorably of like the ruling leadership in Palestine, they would execute you. And it's like, but it doesn't matter. The logic of it doesn't matter. And so it's, of course, if you're on the opposite side of that and you're the Islamist, you're like, sure, great. We're glad to have you as an ally until we get power. And then we don't need you. There was that footage the other day, in the UK where you had all the Muslims in masks that were marching for whatever the heck they're marching for. And, they bump into a lefty guy who has a bullhorn that's cheering for them. And the guy says, hey, you don't have to do that. I'm on your side. And the Muslim says, no, we're not. We're not on your side. But they're too dumb to get it. They just don't. All they know is it is a coalition built. Again, this is why Trump is so useful to them. Trump is an avatar of every single group that they hate. He's wealthy. They hate the wealthy. He's white. They hate white. Claims to represent, to be Christian, or to at least a lot of Christians like him. They don't like that, right? Everything, America, pro-America first. They don't like that, right? Conservative. They don't like that, right? And so he's this cartoon character of everything, every villain, every oppressor that they could think of rolled up into one ball. There. So now we have a coalition of the trans and the lesbians and the feminist and the disabled and the Muslim and the Jewish and the queer and the poor and the very rich, and insert every category. And you're like, how does this make sense? So many of these categories directly would oppose each other. It doesn't have to make sense. And the logic of it's irrelevant. All that matters is that guy's our enemy, so we believe the opposite of him. And we talked about this in the show last night. Me and Ryan Mullally, we were talking about sort of why did they roll back sort of the laws that we had that were like, look, you're in Chicago, you're the police, you arrest someone for a violent crime like a sexual assault. They're an illegal immigrant. There was laws that you would cooperate with federal enforcement. You'd call ICE and say, hey, they rescinded that. Why? Why did they immediately rescind remain in Mexico and all this stuff? Why? Well, one, it's because they want illegal immigration. They do. They don't want these people deported. But the simple answer is just Trump wants it. We don't. Trump wants a wall. We don't. Trump wants tax cuts. We don't. Trump wants tariffs. We don't. Whatever Trump says he wants, we're against. You know, they didn't give a shit about the Epstein files. Trump's like, forget about the Epstein files. Now we want the Epstein files released. If a Democrat gets in office and doesn't release the Epstein files, and all of a sudden you have Trump being like, never mind, I changed my mind and release them, they'll be like, never mind, we don't want to release them. It does not matter. Whatever Trump says is clearly bad. That's it. It's that simple. Trump likes chocolate ice cream, Joe Biden will start eating vanilla. It's that simple. And it's like, so none of that has to be logical, you know. So we're going to get Ma'am Donnie in New York, I'm afraid.
Well, cool. Hey, if that's what they want, then that's what they'll get.
They'll find out eventually. I mean, it's weird. I will continue to fight for cultural and political message that I think is right. And I know this is petty, and it's not the way to think about it. But I would lie if I'd say the petty, sort of sinful part of me does sort of sit back and smile like, God help you if you get what you want. You know, you're the dog chasing the car, and eventually you're going to catch the car. And it's just like, God, I don't know what to say. I do not know what to say. It's like, okay. You know, we have white liberal women that are out there shouting about how, how absurd and horrible it is to get catcalled walking down the streets of New York, that's voting for a guy who basically says he wants to abolish prisons. Okay, let's see what happens. Let's see how that experiment works out. And when it fails, and this is the point, like everyone gave Andrew Wilson shit for his one. Granted, I thought it was hyperbolic, and I don't think the technical aspects of his tweet were right. But when that young Scottish girl was holding those blades because that man was coming at him, and he was like, well, here we go. Now all of a sudden women are like, we're all the good men to step in and intervene. You voted for this shit. Now, this girl didn't, so technically wrong. And also, not every woman voted for it. And a lot of men voted for it as well. But the spirit of the comment's true, where it's like, all of these women will vote for this shit. These liberal ladies will vote for this. And then when shit goes awry, they're going to be like, oh my goodness, this is absurd. This is what you wanted. This was easily the predictable outcome. When these cities, when crime's occurring and people don't feel safe, you're voting for a guy. It's like, you know what we should do? Unleash the prisons. Just send everyone. Okay. And then when you're the victim and all of a sudden you're like, how could this happen? I hope you're never the victim. I hope I'm wrong. I hope things work out well, but I don't think they will. So, well
Rob, I couldn't have said it better myself. A great discussion as always. And I'll see you next time, next show. It's the robnoerr Show.
Thank you, Halus. I appreciate it, man. We'll talk soon. Ozma, $5. Thank you. Says it wouldn't let me send Tree Fitty, so I rounded up. Keep up the stellar work. Hard R. Oh, thank you. For those that don't know, that's my rap name, Rob Hard R Noor. Verna Desert, $5 says, okay, hear me out. Is anyone from the Guardian Angels a billionaire and now wears a bat costume? Not sure. Have they ever been seen at the same place? Bear in the Woods, $5 says, familiar yourself with calling out the Islamic principle of taqiyya. It permits lies and deception for political gain. Yes. Are we not even going to get to 50% of our goal today? Tisk, tisk, tisk. All of my haters win today. All of them win today if we don't reach our goal, especially if we don't even reach 50%. But anyways, we're going to bring in our last caller. Red Pill Phil McGill, what's happening, my friend? How you doing?
What's up, my brother? Am I loud?
You sound good. Thanks so much for calling in.
First off, since you were talking about the billionaire, we'll leave it at that.
There he is.
And I'm not Red Pill. That's just
I've never seen you in the same place as Batman. Just throwing it out there. Never saw it.
I literally have a shirt that says the same thing. So, but
that's awesome.
I actually hate the whole red pill thing. Like I come up with it a long time ago. It was on my, I had a Twitter and I had a Rumble and some other stuff. And then I saw Andrew Tate and what they were using it for. I got it from the Matrix, obviously. Choose the truth. You know what I mean? So I get associated with that, but I've been married for 17 years and I have 3 children, and I couldn't stand with that stuff. So I'm pretty much right along the same track. And a lot of people kind of fear, because they see my name or whatever, but it is.
Well, Red Pill certainly started off as that. Like it was like, wake up. That's all red pill meant. Like, are you out of
Yeah.
are you out of the matrix of like the BS that we hear from the establishment media? That's how it's weird how language is like that. Like the term alt-right, right? Before Charlottesville, like people would be like, this person's alt-right. I'm like, what does that mean? Just not neocon? Like not George Bush, Jeb Bush? Then I guess I'm alt-right. And then all of a sudden it became like, no, alt-right means like racist, like white nationalist. And it's like, well, I'm not that. Right. And
Yeah,
so
I think it was when they wanted Jeb, everything that was just an inch past him was basically,
right.
white,
It's alt-right. And so
racist,
it's
everything else.
people
Even though you don't associate with that, you know what I mean? And you know that. But
people taking the moniker and then using it for themselves, and the opponents branding people a certain thing, and then all of a sudden the meaning of it changes. So now red pill, I don't know when it happened. Now listen, I don't mind like Andrew Tate and Myron and them. They say things that are true. They do.
Absolutely.
I disagree with the prescription of what they suggest we should do about it then. But that's now the red pill. And I don't know when it happened because I don't really watch those shows. And
like
it,
it
just seemed like
yeah.
it was like overnight. That was red pill. That's the red pill community. And then it's like, I'm not as big as like Andrew Wilson, but I know from like helping Andrew with debates and stuff like this, he's always called a red pill guy. And it's like, well, no, there's a vast difference. There's a complete difference from like both sides saying like, look, there's sort of a war on men. That's true. Right. And so one side says what you could do about that is like seek God, seek a family, seek a good woman, have children. And the other side's like, just give up and bang as many chicks as you can. Like those are diametrically opposed positions. And so to label both of those as like, well, you must believe what Andrew Tate does if you like, well, no, it couldn't be further from that.
I do not want to be a walking STD, number one. I mean, just for one. Number two, like you're literally giving up on values if you have that kind of prescription. And I guess it's the farthest thing from, the way I am and how I feel. But
I'm with you. Yep.
For sure. Let's go. I just wanted to call and let you know, basically, I am not red pill, even though my name says so. It's been that way for a while, but
Well, hey man, I'm glad to hear. And let me say, man, I couldn't be happier for you, man. Oh yeah. Reexamination says nice guitar collection. It is wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
You play, I assume?
Everywhere. Man, drums, bass, piano. I do it all.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I mean,
it-
it's one of those things, unless you're like married to a good woman, or presumably if you're a woman married to a good man and having kids, like you could talk why it's so great until you're blue in the face, but it's something you have to experience to really see, especially being a father. Being a father, there's nothing I can explain that even remotely approaches being close. Like I was the type of dude that when I started dating my wife, right, I would have been 26, I think, when we started dating, 26 or 27. And it's like, oh, it's Friday night, let's go out. And now it's like, we're going on vacation. And I'm not thinking like, what would be fun? We'll go to a casino or we'll go, they got an interesting bar there. I'm like, what would be cool to do with our son? And that's not a chore. It's not like, oh, well, you're just doing that because, no, I'm legitimately, that's what I want to do. That to me is fun. That's what I want to. If I was ridiculously wealthy and I never had to stream another day, and I was just like, so you know what I would do? I'd buy an RV and spend every waking moment with my wife and son. That's what I would do. And I would be happy with the smile. I'd still occasionally want to see my friends and you want to take a night off and stuff like that. But my goodness, that's it. That's what I want in life. And I feel like I've reached the peak and there's nothing better than this. This is what I want for me till the end of my days, until I'm old with my wife on our front porch on rocking chairs, drinking sun tea, hoping that my son comes and visits with his kids so I can see my grandkids.
And
that's it.
What I was going to say, like when you see your kid do something good, when they help someone, or that you see them pray and you didn't ask them to, or, anything like that, so I always say there's 4 moments, because I have 3 kids and a wife, that are wonderful, that I hold above a lot of things. They keep adding up when you see your kids doing other things. You know what I mean? So you can add to those moments. They're not the best, it's whatever, but it feels really good when you feel like, hey, I did my job. And
that's right.
I got a long way to go, but at least I'm not a horrible parent, so.
That's.
But I won't hijack anymore. Everyone get some donations in, man. Thanks, man.
Hey, call in anytime, man. And thank you so much, and congratulations.
Absolutely, I love the show, man. I'm watching everyone I can. Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much, man. What a great call. Couldn't agree more with them. It's great to hear someone that has the right perspective, in my estimation. Now Now listen, where's all the whales at today? Someone who's going to throw in like $50 or $100 to help us reach our goal. We have 8 minutes left, so I don't have any callers left, which is super rare, but not a bad thing. So now I could do two things. I could, one, grift for money. And second, I could hit the theme that I wanted to with the show. Please, please, please go vote today. Please. John Smith's not a whale anymore. He's been working on his figure. Smart. And let me make a case to you. I'm not making a case. Let me let you know. I'm not saying go vote for anyone. I'm saying vote for the people that are most conservative-minded, right-wingers, and reject what the left is representative now, which is the cheering of the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the wanting people like you silenced or killed, and the wanting of open borders, and the wanting of mass spending, and the wanting of the people that are working hard in the middle class to continue to be milked more and more and more until they have to rely on the government and give up as well. That's what they represent, and it must be rejected. So please go out and vote. Do a little research, find the candidates. They're almost all going to be Republicans, and vote for the ones that you think will reject that the most. Find your polling place. It's not that hard. Go online, type in where you live, and sort of just search where the proper precinct is for you to vote, and then go do it. And I know what you're thinking. My vote doesn't matter. Please, trust me, it matters. There's right now 200 people listening. If half of us go vote, that's 100. That's substantial. Premonition, thank you so much. Always appreciate $5. Says, love to the family. Wish I could do more. No problem, Premonition. I'll be doing this debate tonight at 9 p.m. It's going to be on Christian nationalism. You've already heard basically what my strategy is going to be. I hope even if it'll be the first debate I've ever done on any subject related to Christianity, really. Even if it's going to be non-denominational in the way that I'll be arguing with it. And I don't really argue philosophy and things like that all too often. So we'll see. It's not my cup of tea, but I hope I do you all proud. So we have 6 minutes left until I have to go. Is there any possible way that we could reach our goal? Get 60% more. Now I'll remind you, if you need more incentive, you could really stick it to night shift, because night shift, I have a feeling, is going to have a poor performance tonight as well. Because during the debate, people won't be donating that much. And then I have no idea how late the debate itself will go. That I'm unsure of. So, yeah, and you have to understand, these like local votes and these off years, these are where the Democrats do so much damage. Like, again, when you look at the judge retention here in Pennsylvania, that's going to ensure that Democrats can control the legal system in Pennsylvania until at least 2035, if they win. That's crazy. And Republicans, they can find themselves the enthusiasm to vote when it's Trump or when it's the president. But man, when it's these off years, I got better things to do. Please get out there. Like to gerrymander these dono numbers, huh? I guess that's it. I've finally been defeated. What can I say? I've lost. My haters have won. I'm on notice. Manted. Two things. When you get a solemn and passion, it's good, very good to see. I hope people are paying attention. Thank you, man. And two, who are you debating and what and when? I am debating someone named Godless Engineer tonight. It'll be on this channel, but the moderator is Bloodbath Debates, and it's going to be on, the specific prompt is basically, should we have a Christian nationalist system? That's the prompt. So, I agreed to do a debate on this channel. The channel is Breakfast Tacos. So here is the, let me see. The upcoming. Here it is. I agreed to do a debate in this channel, which he was very nice behind the scenes, don't get me wrong. But then once he told me it was religious debates only, I was like, oh, I don't know about that. So I am prepped for the debate and breakfast tacos. Oh, yeah. Good for you, Solemn Argus. Keep doing it, man. Keep voting. So there it is. And there's the specific link to their channel. Now, I would prefer if you watch it on my channel. But notice how my opponent looks very frumpy in that little artist rendering there. I look very happy. Also thinner. Thanks so much. They got the hat right, though, right? Not enough gray in the beard. But, hey, right? So, yeah. But, yeah, a lot of the prep work that Manted and me have done for other debates I think will be useful tonight. We'll see. There's some ideas that I have based on what I think he's going to say that I'm going to do a little research on, but nothing too heavy. I actually have things going on tonight as well. I still have to go vote, so that's what I plan to do after this. I have to go pick up a rental car. So at 2:30 here, I'll shut down the stream. We're going to be raiding my friend EOD. Then I'll go pick up my son in school. We'll get him home, settled in for a couple minutes, and then we're driving out to pick up our rental car. Then we'll pick that up, and then the car I'm driving now is my mother-in-law's, which we will then return to her. Look at this. Noctilucent. 50 bucks says, thanks for what you do. Thank you, man. Thank you so much. Really. Unbelievable generosity. Thank you. And Landon, 10 bucks. Thank you as well, man. We're close. We're close to our dono goal. What's this? I do not believe there will be an extravaganza today. At least I haven't been made aware of it. Ron Quay, 5 bucks, says, wanted to call and talk about risk because Coach apparently is scared of risk. Wind was cutting my mic and ran out of time. Take this anyways. Thanks so much, Ron. Real quick, I saw, I'll be very fast with this because I only have like a minute. I saw someone ask me, what's the difference when I talked about like the sort of the idea that last night there was no offense from this Coach Greg Adams guy versus when Andrew Wilson debated Destiny on January 6th about the definition of insurrection and saying that he didn't need a counterinterpretation because the definition itself was terrible. Well, it's because we're talking about the definition of a word and what that means versus what we ought to do as a prescription. So one is an is claim and one is an ought claim. What ought we be doing going forward? So you always want to have offense when you're having some sort of argument. Should we buy more ice cream tonight? I don't think we'll need it. Isn't a very compelling argument because there's no offense. That's a defensive argument. The offensive argument would be, no, we don't have room for it and it would melt and it will cost money for which we are wasting. These are offensive reasons not to do it. The question is, what is ice cream? If you choose to define ice cream as, I say ice cream's anything that's edible, I could say, I don't even have to provide a definition for ice cream to prove like, yeah, that's a dumbass definition. Your own definition is so broad, it makes the word meaningless. Andrew didn't give a shit about what the term insurrection is. What he gave a shit was how it's being applied in a two-tier standard to go after people they don't like. Similar last night. Andrew and Red Pill are both agreeing, or Coach Greg Adams are both agreeing on a couple things. They're agreeing marriage is good, right? If it doesn't end in divorce. And they're agreeing there's a bunch of problems. Abortions and single motherhoods and all this stuff. So Andrew's like, here's my prescription to solve it. And Coach Greg's just like, nah, that won't work. And Andrew's like, okay, I think it will. So Greg makes a defensive argument, and Andrew's like, now what's your offensive argument? What's your offensive argument to solve these problems? And Greg says, they're unsolvable. I have no solutions. He loses. See how that's different than defining a word? So anyways, thank you so much to all my mods. Thank you to my editor, Black Elk. Everyone who called in, everyone who donated. Remember, you could be a real base Chad and send $151 in as the outro's going, and we win. Day shift wins. I look for it to happen. I think someone's going to send $150 during the outro. We're going to be rating a good friend of the show, EOD, my top mod, or one of my top mods, so I don't get yelled at by the rest of them. He's a great dude, so please stick around and make sure that you give him a thumbs up and a subscription. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Remember, go vote. Remember Charlie Kirk. Remember what they did to him. And remember, the future of the country will be more violence and intimidation against people like you. They didn't take Charlie Kirk out because he was extreme. They took him out because he's like you, and he was effective. So God bless Charlie Kirk and his family, and please, please, go vote and remember him as you do. Don't forget to send in, whoever's about to send in $151. I appreciate it. You know who you are. Get ready to send it in. You got about a minute. Ready? All right, thanks so much, everyone. We'll see you tonight around 9 p.m. Have a good
Only in America is it possible to say, you know what, I don't like the way the country is going, and to do something about it. Take that risk. Take that leap of faith. Stay involved. Trust God and act obediently. Romans 12:2 verse. That God will use all things for good for those who love him. It's bigger than you. I want you to remember that. It is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. You are here to make somebody else's life better, the pursuit of liberty and freedom. You know what gives me strength? The hundreds of thousands of you that say, Charlie, keep going.
1 Corinthians 5 and 15. So that's all pretty amazing evidence, not just intra-biblical evidence, but extra-biblical evidence that Jesus Christ was a real person. He lived a perfect life. He was crucified, died, and rose on the third day, and he is Lord and God of all.